Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting for the Board of Ethics. We are in council chambers on June 30th, 2026. It is 5:31 p.m. Can't see because of the glare. First up on the agenda, hi, Stephen. Come on in. I'm barely doing the introductions. You're not late for anything except me saying hello.
My apologies.
No. None at all.
Sometimes trying to get out onto Route 2 to make a left-hand turn requires an act of Congress.
Tricky, yeah. Here, let me, just in case matters, let me give you this. I don't want you to pretend to have to be anybody you're not.
Well, you're gonna be James.
We just began. You're good to keep going?
Absolutely.
Great. As always, we're working from an agenda this evening, and first up on the agenda, excuse me, are the introductions. We do not have, Courtney, you can hear me? Yeah, thank you. That's the view I would prefer, please. Thank you. With me in council chambers tonight, members Mark Eastman, John King, Stephen Bro, Cody Silknutter, guiding attorney Ed Gould, legal advisement. I'm member Shane Leonard, and I'm also the chair. First up first up was introductions. Next up, the approval of our minutes from the June 3rd, 2026 meeting, and hopefully everything in your packets is chronological. Should be the next item right up. You've had a chance to look at that. Great. If not, you want to do it now, that's fine too. We will either need to, when everyone is ready, accept the minutes or amend them, and then hopefully accept the amended minutes.
I will do accept the minutes.
I second.
John moved, Stephen seconded. We have a vote. Mark?
Yes.
John? Cool. Stephen?
Yes.
Cody?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Next item, unfinished business. We have a request for an advisory opinion on the city council referral CO 26-152. Excuse me. Councillor Maller's March 31st, 2026 remarks captured on a live mic. We are first up to review all of the voluntary statements from any persons. I remember this time to say it at the right stage. I did not receive any additional information prior to this meeting started. Did you?
No.
Nothing. Yep. So everything that we have is what we're supposed to have. We didn't ask for any voluntary statements except for those from Councillor Maller. So we can. I don't remember how we did this last time. I'm feeling sort of strangely rusty. That should come at the public hearing portion.
Yes.
For that. Okay. Yes. As we have no voluntary statements to review, all records that we requested from the city and other public agencies. Next. Additional thing that we asked for the body was the home on the Bangor database. Anybody had any questions or comments about the records that we requested? The floor is open.
Well, there's also the video,
Right.
and that's also part of the record.
Do we have the ability to enter that actually into the public record as an edited segment, or do we just merely discuss it?
You can discuss it. It's It's in the meeting packet with the link to the YouTube site.
Okay. Does the public have
Yes.
easily accessible access through this meeting? If they wanted to review what we're discussing right now, would they have that ability?
You mean to review it right now?
Yes, or if, I mean, we can discuss the video.
Yeah.
It's still available.
But in other words, can we play the video now so the public can see? Is that the question?
No, but
Okay.
is it available as a link?
I think I
During
understand
this
seeing in our
So if you
agenda.
wanted to
Yep.
see it, I understand.
Okay,
And I don't know the answer to that question.
It's still available on the YouTube site, so they can go to the YouTube and look for that meeting date and watch it there.
When I looked last, on the city's website, for each meeting, there's a calendar and a schedule, and there's also a link to the agenda. It would have our agenda on it, and if I believe from looking at that same link, it has the link to the information that we have as well. So I think if I'm understanding that correctly, they could have the specific link instead of having to go hunt it down and find it, and it would be right there. And the timestamp is part of our agenda item. I think that's there. Is that what you were
yes,
more?
Yeah.
Yep.
just as a procedural.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah. Because,
Yeah.
maybe someone looks back at this
We've all done our
later.
homework and listened to that multiple times.
Right. Yeah. Again, the floor is still open until the board decides that there is no necessary further review of the records that we request. Fine for that. No, good. Stephen? All right, fine. You're fine with that? Moving on to the public hearing portion of the meeting. In a minute, the public hearing portion of this meeting will begin, and anyone who wishes to step forward and speak to this board, please address your comments to the chair, which is again, is me. When you stand up, please make sure we hear your full name and your residence, and if there is there's an agency or a body that you're speaking on behalf of, please, say that as well. We're trying to adopt the best that we can the city council's public hearing requirements. As such, speakers would have no more than 3 minutes, as long as they remain on topic to the topic at hand this evening and aren't engaging in any personal attacks or litigation that has no business before the board. If you aren't on topic, you may be paused. Your time will be frozen to correct or clarify. And moving forward, that may forfeit the rest of your time, but hopefully not. The public hearing portion of this meeting is now in effect. If anyone would like to come forth, please do so one at a time. Yeah, thank you. And of course, there we go. Yep, make it green. Thank you.
My name is Mike Burrow, resident of Bangor. I do not represent any group, nor do I have anything to gain by speaking for Mr. Mallard. Mr. Mallard is being accused of not using a disclaimer. Mr. Mallard has the First Amendment rights under the Constitution of the United States for free speech, whether you agree with him or not. He was speaking to an individual and was overheard by a very sensitive microphone. No disclaimer is required when an individual is expressing his own opinion. Mr. Mallard was not addressing an audience or individuals. Therefore, because of this particular scenario, he was just expressing his own individual opinion. This claim is not well grounded and should be dismissed in its entirety. I was witness to an individual on the DEI advisory committee who did not use the disclaimer. This was during public comment. She called 3 city councilors white Christian neo-Nazis. I personally spoke about this at least twice, and this violation did not make it to the ethics board. Another individual on the Historic Preservation Commission, speaking at the Bangor City Council meeting during public comment, and did not use the disclaimer, and stated, hoped more homeless came to Bangor and individual property values get devaluated and thus more affordable. These individuals knew they were being recorded and in a public meeting, but did not use the disclaimer. No action was taken against them. Question is why? Whereas Mr. Maller did not know that his voice was being picked up by, again, a very sensitive microphone. The chair of this committee has gone on social media in the past and made political comments, and he does not provide a disclaimer. However, this is his First Amendment right as a citizen of the United States. We may not like what other individuals post, write, or say, but they do have a First Amendment right under the Constitution of the United States. Mr. Mallard also has these same rights. It seems because Mr. Mallard does not vote a certain way and share certain ideology, he is constantly under the microscope, whereas others can say and do as they please because they share the same ideologies with no repercussion. Again, I want to restate, this claim is not well-grounded and should be dismissed in its entirety. Thank you very much.
Sure. I should also have said, and I apologize to everyone that I did not include it. Another part of our public speaking is if there are any questions from the board to a speaker, we ask, of course, you're not obligated to do anything because this is just a public portion of the speaking. But if we did have a question, we always ask that if you would handle that. Thank you. Did I, and I apologize, sir, maybe I was trying to form that in my head. I was listening to you, I promise. Did you say the chair of this committee?
Yes.
That would be me.
Yes.
And I made public political statements.
Yes.
When was that, sir?
My wife has that all written down, so she can provide it to you if you want. She can show it to you. But that's your First Amendment right. I mean, you can do it, but you did. My point was,
Yeah.
you didn't make a disclaimer, which you don't have to, because that is your First Amendment right.
Yeah.
I just want to make an analogy between what Mr. Mallard said at the time was picked up on a hot mic, which we all know political candidates on occasion, it all happens to them. I mean, it does. It's just one of those things, but they don't intend for it to get out in the public. But this is the way it is. But we're covered under the First Amendment. Like you're protected under the First Amendment. I may not like what you said, but that's okay. I mean, you have that right. So I just want to make that clear. I want to make kind of a correlation. You know, people saying do a lot of things, and people got to understand all these things are absolutely recorded. There is nothing in these days that you can say or do that isn't recorded or stored somewhere, i.e., the AI data centers. I mean, it is all there. So
Doesn't that go against your idea that, in your statement, you said that Mr. Mallard was speaking privately, but we all understand everything's being recorded.
Right, he was speaking privately, but he's also protected on the First Amendment. He has free speech.
So it doesn't matter that he was speaking privately. It just matters that he has the First Amendment right to say what
Yes,
he
sir.
wants.
That's correct. Absolutely. Yep.
Regarding me, just again, out of curiosity, and again, if your wife, I don't know.
She can provide it to you. Yeah.
I believe you, but was it during an ethics board meeting?
No, this was your private email, stuff you said about. Again, I want to make the correlation.
Okay.
You didn't have to disclose that, hey, I'm part of this board or anything like that. That was my intent, just to disclose that. You did not have to personally disclose that on your private email.
No, I understand your point, and I'm not arguing that point. I'm just curious what private email you read.
It's your Facebook page.
Social media.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just a point. I just want to compare and contrast. So just so everybody knows.
Sure. I thought I heard you correctly.
No, you did. You did.
Does anybody else
I
on
did.
the board have any questions?
Have you had a chance to read chapter 33 Code of Ethics?
We did go through it. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we got it right there.
When you're looking at chapter 33-13.1.
I don't have it in front of me, so.
C,
Yeah.
okay. It clearly states that any. Let me read it for you here. Disclaimers are required when when there could be ambiguity regarding the capacity in which elected or appointed official is communicating. In a typical disclaimer, a speaker or writer speaking for myself or speaking as an individual, or although I hold the office of blank, I'm speaking as a private individual. Okay, that's part of the ethics. Okay, and
Correct.
because he's an elected official
Correct.
in a official city board meeting, knowing that the mics were on, should have been, you think he should have just did the disclaimer based on what that Board of Ethics chapter says?
So here's the thing. A lot of times people don't realize how sensitive these mics are. I mean, I could be speaking to the attorney and just saying, boy, I really don't agree with that. And it just picks it up. And it's like, the intent was not for anybody else to hear it. It was just for his ears only. And that's how I look at it. Certain things are meant for one person's ears only. And because there's something so sensitive that it can pick everything up, that wasn't the intent. So you got to look at intent.
As a city council member speaking in this room on a regular twice a month basis, would he not be aware that these mics are sensitive?
It's so sensitive. I mean, I could only, it'd be speculative on my part to assume that it's that sensitive. I mean, I don't know the sensitivity, and I'm sure it can be cranked up or cranked down, the sensitivity of it. I mean, who knows? I know I can say one thing. I'm a former retired military officer pilot, and my hearing is getting pretty bad. So a lot of times I tend to speak a little louder, and I don't even realize it. So Mr. Miles, he is getting a little older, and his hearing is probably a little worse than mine. He's a little bit older than me. So a lot of times you don't realize, when you accentuate stuff, if it's loud or not being picked up. So my assumption would be he didn't know, but it's purely speculative on my part, and I wouldn't even want to get into that.
That's the reason why we're here, is for that section. And that's why I want to make sure that we all understood that that's the reason
He
why.
does have free speech, protected under the First Amendment.
And it does state that in section A, but it has the disclaimers down at the bottom that are there for a reason. And that's what we're here for. So.
But then again, I just want to say this. If he was outside, would he use a disclaimer? If he was in here talking to me, would he use a disclaimer? I mean, it's a situation where you really have to be careful, because people, like, I just give you two instances where they did not, and they were publicly speaking. I mean, people just forget, they get excited, and they're not called out on it by the chair for whatever reason. But people, they just sometimes forget. When you're having a private conversation, if I was having a private conversation with you and I was a city council member, I wouldn't say, oh, by the way, if you were a city employee, you'd probably know I already was, but I wouldn't use it. I would just I would make an assumption that it wasn't going to be picked up and be public on a hot mic. I would make that assumption. Now, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, but I would make that assumption.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sir?
My name is Suzette Furrow. I'm a resident of Bangor. The opinions I express are my own and do not reflect those of any committee I am on. The statements Councillor Mallard made during the break in the Ethics Board meeting on March 31st of this year were not meant to be public comments. They were comments he made while talking to a city employee. They were not intended to be heard by the public. This was his opinion. He did not have to state a disclaimer since he did not know the sensitivity of the microphone in the room. Whether anyone agrees with Councillor Mallard's statements or not, he has the First Amendment right under the United States Constitution to freedom of speech, which includes his opinion. We live in a surveillance state in which we can be recorded by someone at any time. We cannot be expected to state a disclaimer regarding our personal opinions at all times. Counselors state their opinions during discussions at committee meetings and council meetings. Counselor Joe Leonard has stated a couple of times that he does not care if it costs $1 million to keep one homeless person off the street. It's worth it. Yeah, he's able to vote on a budget. Counselor Leonard also has stated during committee meetings that,
Ma'am, please, this is, it feels like it's, I paused your time and please mark your spot.
okay,
It feels like we are starting to talk about other counselors, and when
Yeah,
I prefaced this beforehand, I said, the matter only at hand.
okay.
I'm only
But
asking
I'm just
you-
saying that the people, other counselors, I guess I could say generally, other counselors state their opinion during discussions and they don't say, this is my own opinion.
Yes, ma'am. I heard the first sentence about a different city councilor, and then when you continue the second sentence, it seems like now it's.
Okay, I won't
So
talk about,
I'm asking you please to
Okay.
stay on the
I won't
focus.
say the name anymore. I'm just generally saying counselors say their opinions. Okay,
We correct and recenter so that this is about the parameters of this meeting.
Okay. All right. So it's a very slippery slope we're on here. If you find Counselor Mallard in violation of ethical code, you're setting the city up for more of these violations. If someone's caught on a hot mic out on the street or anywhere on someone's phone, you could just, if you hear a counselor saying something you don't like, you could turn on your mic and record them and then bring it to the ethics board. Also, I noticed that the chair of this committee and vice chair work together on a podcast. If that's okay, if I mention this. According to the Board of Ethics Procedural Rules, Article 4, Due Process and Ethics, subsection 4.2, Public Meetings, board members may not discuss pending matters with each other outside of a board meeting. No decision may be made by the board outside of a regular or special meeting of the board. Board members may discuss pending matters with city staff or their representatives. So I think there's a little bit of a conflict there, that the fact that you both work together. And I would like to ask you, Mr. Leonard, I don't know, are you related to Joe Leonard? I don't know if you've ever stated that or not. I'm just, because you,
I'm gonna give you the rest of your time.
Okay. That's it. I'm done. Thank you.
The easiest one, of course, is the commonality of the name. I am not known to be related to Joe Leonard at all.
Okay.
And to be fair, if you have more time than I and you dive deep into ancestry, for example, and you discover that we share a common lineage, that'd be news to me. I don't know that I'm related to him at all. It's
Okay.
just a common last name. The second point is there is no vice chair. Mark Eastman is a member of the board, but he has no title other than
Okay.
third. Have you listened to the podcast
No.
that we've talked about?
No, I just saw that you're on a podcast together. Yep.
Well, you specifically brought it up as what seems like, a central point to your argument that the board might be acting improperly. And if you've heard Mr. Eastman and I talking about this matter or any matter regarding the ethics board on our podcast, I would very much like to know what episode that was.
I've never listened to the podcast. I just saw that you both have one
So
together.
we share our
Yeah.
in action, but you don't know that we talk about city government, municipalities. Do you know what our podcast is about?
It's about movies, I think.
It is about
Screening
movies.
movies, yes.
So have you ever listened to that podcast?
No, I have not.
Do you understand why I think it's a strange inclusion in your statement to suggest that a movie
Well,
podcast that I-
at the last meeting I attended, you two mentioned something about that you had looked at. I don't remember what the paper was, some kind of paperwork. I don't remember exactly what the statement was, but that's why I thought you,
we mentioned that we looked at paperwork at the last ethics board. meeting.
yes.
Ma'am, this table is full of paperwork and he's sitting right next to me. We are looking at similar papers, but none of that has to do with movies. Do you understand the difference?
Do you understand what it says in the article here that I just read?
Yeah, but we
Because
shouldn't be talking away from this committee or these meetings.
Well, I have no proof that you do or do not, and neither do you. I don't know how you could prove that you don't.
I do have proof that we've never talked about this on a podcast.
Okay, but I mean, do you always talk on the mic? Is the mic always hot? I don't know.
No, we turn it off when the podcast is
I would
out. Are you
assume.
asking me something other than the insinuation that we podcast about?
I'm saying you two work together. I'm just a resident voicing my concerns.
And I'm not trying to, there's no effort to attack you on this. I'm trying to be very clear about an insinuation that you brought to this committee regarding me specifically and another member. But it doesn't seem like you did due diligence to look at the podcasts you're referring to and what they talk about. Of course, they're not on all the time. Because
Podcast is irrelevant. I'm just stating that you work together. It doesn't matter where you work or if you have a podcast or if I go to your workplace that you work together. I'm just saying you work together.
who employs us?
I have no idea. What does that, how is, I don't know if that's relevant.
We don't work together. I'm trying to
Okay.
clarify
Okay.
something that you're presenting as
Okay.
fact. And I'm just trying to help you, or maybe opinion, and you're actually sort of, by the implication, suggesting that there's something improper happening on this board. I'm taking measures to try to clarify that for you so that we can all move forward with transparency and understanding. I'm not trying to argue with you. If I'm raising my voice and I'm not aware of it, I apologize. And I'm not trying to talk over you, but you've levied some interesting sort of ideas here that we work together. We do not. That we podcast together. We have. But it's not about politics, and it's certainly not about any issue before the City of Bangor's ethics boards. In fact, we never talked about this at all on that podcast, even remotely. So for you to include it, at best, seems like some sort of leverage to make a point bigger than what it is, but at worst, it feels like it might potentially be designed to undermine the process and the people on this board. I don't know because I'm not in your head. That's why I'm asking.
It's just a statement. I found it interesting that you're both on a podcast together. And it says, and then when I read through the article, I just think it's a point that maybe should be made.
Where in that reference to the code of ethics do you
It just says,
and I are in violation of that?
I didn't say, I just say it's interesting that you two do work together on a podcast.
And we don't, okay. You're choosing a different verb than I. We, okay.
I just said, I noticed that you two work on a podcast together. And then this due process, an ethics public meeting, board members may not discuss pending matters with each other outside. I don't know if you are. I'm just saying, I'm just making a statement.
You are making a statement.
Yeah,
and
I'm just
gonna clarify for you that a
reading this. And that,
podcast that we do on our own free
Okay.
time about movies, the Board of Ethics doesn't come up,
okay,
and that you would include it as potential leverage that something is going on here that might not be proper. I think it's pretty clear. But if I'm misunderstanding you, I'm giving you the opportunity to clarify it, and you just doubled down by saying we work together and we do this podcast that you've never heard of, that you've never listened to. I have all the patience in the world for your position, but it's okay. You're making statements when you should be asking questions. Chair Leonard, do you have a complicated relationship with another person on this board? Do you talk about the Board of Ethics on this podcast that we've learned? Those are questions, and you would have gotten
do
the same
you?
answer.
I didn't say that you do. I'm just saying that you work together. So do you?
Well, when I began asking you, you asserted that we did. And I've already told you, no, and I can do it again. We don't talk about the Board of Ethics on our podcast. It's not a political podcast.
I just read, all I said was that I noticed that you work together on a podcast. And then I stated I just stated what the rules are. That's it.
And do you see a conflict of interest?
I'm
in
just saying,
rules
I
and
noticed
policies?
that. Do you? I didn't say there is. I said just that I noticed that. That I noticed that you work on a podcast.
Maybe I can better walk away from this part.
I didn't say that you did do that. I just said this is the rules. This is the rules.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question now.
Yes.
If another member of this board and I, in our private time, have a podcast about entertainment and movies specifically, do you see a violation in what you've read?
I didn't
just
say
acceptable.
I didn't say there was a violation.
I'm
I
asking
just
you
said
if you see a violation.
no, because I'm just saying that you do work together. I think it's,
I'm
some
happy to
point.
answer any questions you have about our podcast at any time, except maybe this time, it's just not the right time. I understand, but there were several things that you had questions about. Of course, Joe Leonard and Shane Leonard, that makes.
Yeah, because
Find out.
I didn't know if you'd ever said that, so I just figured I'd ask.
No, of course, that's an
That's
incredible
why I figured I'd ask, yeah,
question.
yeah.
And so would the others if they were asked as questions
Mhm.
instead of made as statements. Does anybody else have any questions for us, Suzette?
The last part of before he had stopped you the first time in regards to other people violating ethics. If you as a citizen of Bangor found something that another councilman had said that was worthy of an ethical ethics board review, do you know the process of how to bring that to the board?
File an ethics complaint, you mean to how to do
Every
that,
citizen of Bangor has that right.
right? Yes,
Nobody here made the ethics complaint. That was made by a private citizen.
yes,
So I do want to say this right now. From now on, let's focus on the at hand situation. If it has to deal with another councilman or another board member of another board, they need to have an ethics complaint filed against them. We
yes,
are focused on what Mr. Millard said
yes,
on 331.
yes,
Nobody else.
yes,
So I would like it to be said that anybody else who's speaking, if you're gonna bring up another council member or a board member and you think it's unethical, you can go right down to the solicitor's office Monday through Friday and file ethics complaint.
yes,
We're not here for that. We're here for one situation.
yes,
And the back and forth is taking way too much time.
yeah,
And we just need to focus on what we are here for, rather than attacking and making accusations, whether meant to or not, against somebody on this board.
yes,
So you need to move forward, because it's the second time that the chair has been pointed out as something that's considered unethical, whether it was said blatantly or not.
mhm,
So I just want to move forward with that and move on.
okay. Yes,
Is there
any
any,
questions?
yeah, is there anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hillary Simmons, resident of Bangor. I would like to ask for Chair Leonard to recuse himself from this process. And I'm going to explain why.
Yeah, hang on.
Can you state if you hold a public office and if you're speaking?
I cannot, because when I come to this council for anything, I am speaking as a resident. My employer is not involved with my ability to speak as a resident.
Here, that's what we want to.
So
Right.
I should never have to say that, because again, it's freedom of speech. I've never brought my employer into a political or any meeting here in the city. So it's nobody's business unless I tell you where I work. Do we ask everyone that speaks at public comment where they work?
We ask.
Okay.
We ask them to notify us if they have any business, if they're speaking on behalf of any government property in this city. That's what we started off with. I just wanted to verify.
Okay. So I would like to request Chair Leonard to be removed.
A moment, if you don't mind. That's not part of the public hearing for the issue at hand, or
No.
is it?
It's not.
Yeah,
It's, if you let me explain, I'll tell you.
you're not allowed to explain for the moment,
Yeah.
please. One moment.
There's a process in the ordinance for raising a conflict of interest. And this is not the way that the conflict issue is raised. Conflict issue can be raised by a board member, and then the board votes to determine whether or not there is a conflict and whether or not the board member should continue to serve.
If you had another statement that you wanted to make, about the issue at hand,
Yeah, I would like to put it on the record for April 16th, the meeting of the Ethics Board in discussion with this hearing. There was a comment between Chair Leonard and another member in this room stating that they had discussed this matter prior to that meeting. It had been discussed outside of that meeting, and I believe that is not appropriate.
I have to stop you for the moment.
I think we're talking procedurally, if we want fairness across the board procedurally.
We are not talking about that specific at the moment. Right now, the portion of the public hearing that is open is to speak about the matter at hand only.
But what I'm speaking about is I don't believe that Mr. Maller can get a fair and impartial decision from the Board of Ethics due to numerous conflicts. That is what I'm stating.
That still has to,
Ma'am, you're
You're
entitled to that opinion,
Yeah.
but that's not the way to raise a conflict issue before this board.
Well, it's,
So
again,
therefore-
freedom of speech.
So therefore, those comments are out of order.
right, and I'm not saying you can't bring this up to the right body. It's just, this is not the time for that to be brought up here. If you had something that you wanted to say, matter at hand directly, then of
Yeah,
course,
I think,
but if you're gonna continue to reference things that don't matter to this specific issue,
I think it matters as a chair to the board, but I'm gonna set it aside. I will finish. How's that? Do I still have my time?
sure, yeah, are you ready?
I'm perfectly ready.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's a question of Mr. Maller stating what he stated. He acknowledged to the BDN that that comment was stated, correct? The question is of the matter of was he representing the city at the time of that comment? So anyone that walks into this chamber, if you're part of the city council, is that what they're representing at that time? Does anyone else walk into this chamber in any other meeting and put a disclaimer out that I am representing myself as a citizen of Bangor? I believe that the city of Bangor has taken away his ability to be a resident, and that's not fair. He also is a resident of the city of Bangor, even though he sits on the council. So he still has the right to his opinion. Is that not correct? And does anyone, when you all have a conversation, say, I can't talk because I'm on the ethics board? When you're having a conversation with somebody else, do you all make that disclaimer? And the hot mic situation, I'm just gonna put it on record, that was a setup because I've been to numerous meetings here and there's never been hot mics. So that was a setup by the city of Bangor. So thank you.
I have a question. At the beginning of the executive session, did or did not the chair state that the recordings were going to be live, video is going to be live, and state that be careful what you say as it is live and the mics are on?
The comment was made that there were mics on, and that's not, I don't think that that is in disagreement.
Okay.
Okay,
But you're saying it is a setup because there was a hot mic that he was aware of. The thing is, it is up to the board itself to decide whether or not we keep the cameras and the mics on if we have to go into a recess. This was not a setup. At no time did we know that that discussion was going to happen. At no time did we work with the city in any way to set him up. We do recognize the freedom of speech, but there is the part of 3313(1). If you read it in full, it makes it very clear exactly what we're talking about. And all I want to do is focus on that and that alone, rather than throwing out accusations and trying to tank this board because we're here to do just this one job. Let's focus and stay on that rather than, and I'm saying it again, rather than going off on tangents about other board members here.
I think it's procedural. I spoke to David Warren that same evening. Did I speak as a citizen or supposedly in my official capacity?
Oh, we don't know what your official capacity is.
So, I mean, that's,
Mr. Millar's official
it's
capacity.
Maller.
Sorry.
Thank you.
But it's, if you just read 33-13-1, section A, clearly states what I'm trying to say. That's all I've got. I just wish we would continue focusing on the issue at hand rather than moving towards, side trails and rabbit holes that's going to make this meeting longer.
And that's your personal opinion. Mine is procedural, and procedures have not been followed with this board. So that's my, again, freedom of speech right to say. So thank you.
Okay. Please do follow the procedures that the city has set forward if you do have an issue with our chair.
Are there any other questions? No. Ms. Simmons, the procedural inconsistency, would you mind coming forward, please? The procedural inconsistency that you're claiming that's happening with the board, can you be more specific?
I can. So there was a meeting here that you and attorney.
This is not a circumventing way to bring up the issue that Mr. Gould has said isn't appropriate, and that's not.
Okay, so you're asking what I'm talking in regards to procedural. I'm telling you why I feel procedure has not been followed by this board.
But the procedure you're referring to is
A conversation, not in a meeting. Are you not allowed to have, you're not allowed to have conversation outside of the meeting?
Please, I haven't asked you a question and your time for public speaking is over.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're still having a question before you.
I guess I'll plead the fifth on my questions due to the fact you won't let me answer them appropriately.
Okay, thank you for your statement. Is there anyone else who wishes to step forward?
My name is Sonia Malla. I'm a resident of the city of Bangor. I also spoke to David Warren that night on an issue related to the city. Was I picked up on the hot mic? I guess not, because I am a regular citizen. Mr. Malla spoke as a regular citizen to David Warren. Does he have to wear a placard on him? I'm speaking as a regular citizen now. It's funny that there were three of us that admit we spoke to David Warren when that hot mic was on. Thank you.
Is there any question for the speaker? I have one, if you don't mind. And I think I'm starting to parse something between all of the public statements. You haven't said this, but when you and your daughter and your husband say that you spoke to Mr. Warren that night here in council chambers.
Yes.
I'm trying not to do the hard work for you. Are you suggesting that the focus was only on your husband's speech and that you and your daughter were somehow muted or not focused on?
We weren't focused on. Nothing was brought up on what Mrs. Simmons or I spoke about with Mr. Warren, was it? The only person that was commented on was Mr. Malla. And we didn't speak as a group. We went up individually. I don't know if Mr. Malla even knew what I was going to ask Mr. Warren. I'm not sure that Mrs. Simmons knew what I spoke to Mr. Warren about, because I didn't know what she spoke to Mr. Warren about. I didn't know what Mr. Mallor spoke to Mr. Warren about. So it wasn't that we talked about the same thing.
I understand. Mr. Bro, excuse me?
Yes. You're not an elected official, are you?
No,
Oh.
I am a resident of the city of Bangor. Mr. Mallor is also a resident of the city of Bangor. We reside in the same property. We pay taxes there. We are ordinary citizens. He shouldn't have to wear a placard. I am not a counselor today, or I am a regular citizen today. That is, in my opinion, infringing on the rights he has as a ordinary citizen for the city of Bangor.
However, because you are not an elected official, you are not beholden to the same standards that a city councilor is beholden to, that they.
I would hope that I was speaking correctly. I will repeat it again. Mr. Mallor is a regular citizen of the city of Bangor. He pays taxes just like I pay taxes, and he does not always wear his counselor hat. I'm sorry, he does not. And regardless of how you want to put it, he still has a right as an independent citizen of the city of Bangor.
So one last question. Do you or do you not? It's a yes or no question. Do you believe that our elected officials should be held to a higher standard?
If that elected,
Yes or
no, no, okay. I don't want to answer it because I cannot state why I am saying yes or no.
You don't have to,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
These are volunteer questions, of course. It's
Yeah.
just part of the,
If you don't mind,
That's fine.
I have one for you, if you don't mind.
Fine.
thank you.
I completely agree that he is a private citizen. He's also an elected official. Do you believe that because he's an elected official, speaking behind the diocese to a city employee while there is cameras and mics on, that some of the comments he may have made could have been interpreted by the citizens who were watching it and the ones who were watching it the next day or read the article as unethical? So yes or no? I mean, could it be perceived by anybody in the city?
I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know. He is a regular citizen of the city of Bangor.
Yes, ma'am, you said that.
Right.
But the question,
And
I'm done.
sometimes when you people are speaking up here, it is very difficult for the people that are sitting back here. I can sit up front here, closer to where you are speaking, and I sometimes can't hear what you're saying. I don't wear hearing aids. Now, if I choose sometimes to sit where the gentleman is over in the corner, I can hear better. This room, the acoustics are very poor. City council meetings, I can't hear what they're saying when they do the workshops. Your voices have a tendency to be muffled. So I don't think Mr. Mallor needs to wear a placard, and he is not always representing as a city council member. He has not denied that he didn't say it, but he didn't say it as a city councilor.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? That's I remember we had a certain section for you, Mr. Mallow.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite in the public hearing part, but it was adjacent to it.
Yeah,
Am I remembering that correctly?
under the procedural rules, you do have a right to speak, but it comes at the end of the public hearing.
As a member of the public, I should have a right to speak.
You do have a right to speak, and the procedural rules indicate that it comes at the end of the public hearing. It gives you the opportunity to address any statements anyone else has made.
That's okay.
What you said has to be, so that's okay.
Okay. Is there? I've looked up as frequently as I could while also trying to give the respect and attention to the speakers. I didn't see anybody. There's one attendee, but I didn't see anything that anyone was raising their hand for. So public comment online doesn't seem to be a thing either. And I'm saying that out loud sort of to myself to see if there's something that I'm missing, and I don't see that I'm missing anything. I didn't miss anything from anyone else, right? Okay. Last call for any public statements and the public hearing portion of this meeting before it's closed. Okay, moving on. Now, the part of the meeting, which is the discussion of the board.
Oh. Councilor Mallon wanted to speak.
Oh, excuse me. I was thinking the end, like after that discussion, of course not. Excuse me. Councilor Mallon.
Well, excuse me, you talked about policy. What is the policy on the chair assuming the authority to, during an executive session, which you were in, leave the mics and camera on? Is there a policy?
Is there a policy that is for either for or against? Is that the chair's discretion?
The conduct of the meeting is within the discretion of the chair.
That's part of the policy. Is that written somewhere, or is that just a general assumption?
By virtue of his position as the chair, he has the authority over the conduct of the meeting.
As I said, is that written somewhere, or is it, have we adopted that as rules of the city, or is that just your opinion?
That's Robert's Rules of Order.
It is part of Robert's rules? Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
And to that point, did we have the ability, yes or no, because I don't know, did we have the ability during that executive session, or the option, I guess would be the better word, to shut the mics and the cameras off? And do we know what past precedents would be? I've listened to numerous council meetings, historic preservation. I don't know that I've ever seen that happen. It may well have, but I cannot say one way or the other.
I don't know any precedent one way or the other.
So if there is no precedent set, then there would be no inconsistency with a non-existent policy.
Correct. It would be within the general authority of the chair to govern the conduct of the meeting.
Okay, my next question would be, why did the chair ask for the mics to be left on? What was your justification for it?
Yeah, and if you don't mind 1 second, Mr. Mallon, if I remember this right, I'm not timing Mr. Maller's comments at all. He doesn't, the 3-minute rule does not apply to him.
Right.
Okay. At that meeting, Mr. Maller, we were processing the council order regarding your behavior at the Historic Preservation Society. the Historic Preservation Committee. And one of the things that had been discussed and deliberated upon was, and one of the things that this board asked for evidence, I guess, was, is there any footage of what happened during the recess with you specifically? Is there footage of you getting up and approaching someone? Is there any audio of the meeting? And at that point, it wasn't clear to the board how the city operated the Zoom and the YouTube channel side of things. It was my curiosity to ask the city manager's office if footage remained but wasn't broadcast, meaning that before I knew what the control room behind me looked like, perhaps there was footage and that we could ask for it to better help figure out how to assist the council order regarding you. I had come to learn that when the recess is in effect, that the microphones and the video is turned off. It was my suggestion over time, and it remains still, that would have helped this board in that issue there and could have helped in any other issues like that. That I understand if the, and for the lack of a better term, sir, because I actually don't know what to call, whether it's Dave or Courtney or whoever is running the service back there, but the control room is what I'm going to refer to it as, if that's okay. It's my assertion that for meetings, it would have been so helpful for us to have addressed that council order if microphones could have been turned off. But if the video had been on, we would have been able to see clearly and not had to rely on your memory or the memories of anyone else in that meeting, because it was months ago, if you did in fact get up and did you approach someone? And if you did, maybe we could have asked them for a voluntary statement. It would have helped us as a board to work through the issue that the council had put forward. So when it was the meeting that I was chairing and we were going to pause for a moment to confer with council, I made the decision to basically, and previously to that, I had told Dave Warren that I thought my recommendation, if I could find a way to do it in the findings of fact to help the city council going forward, were in instances like this to leave the video on for any meeting. There's no reason not to. It doesn't have to be a black screen. And if there is a problem, the video, which would be very helpful, would be very helpful. So when we took that break, I stood up and I told Mr. Warren that I was gonna practice what I'm preaching. I want the monitors on, I want the video running, and might as well leave the mics on. And I left, and if memory serves, member Bro was actually calling in on Zoom at that point, and we were trying to make sure that there was a way to have a conversation with him that accidentally wasn't being broadcast to people that weren't hearing it while we were conferring with the lawyer. And I re-entered this room and pointed to all of you and said, I want to remind you that the mics are on. The video was on when I left again.
So does that show in the video? You coming back?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, I don't know. I don't watch the
No,
video.
it's okay. And I had to watch it twice because I anticipated your question. It's a very reasonable question. And in a very strange way, no one's ever asked me it. Why did you do that? It's because my suggestion for the city council and for all boards doing business, just leave the video on. Because for us to have helped figure out exactly whether or not anything was reasonably brought against you or there was reason to ask someone, we could have found out if we had just had the video.
I agreed with you that I had approached and talked to a lady that was on the, and I talked to two people, I think.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But if your memory hadn't been clear, or if there had been a disagreement, if there was video of it, we would know. And we could have just simply said, for example, it turned out you talked to Ann Quinn and you admitted as such.
Yes, I talked to Ann Quinn and I also talked to,
And that's
and I
fine.
can't think of his name, from the university.
But if we had seen on the video during that recess that you had approached Ms. Quinn, we wouldn't have had to have guessed. We could have just said, Ms. Quinn, would you like to give us a voluntary statement about the actions? All it does is help offer a level of transparency that I think the city isn't quite operating on. And I was trying to back that up by saying, I want transparency when I'm running this meeting. That's the answer to your question, sir.
That's part of the answer, but the thing that I find interesting is that you never brought this to the council to talk to us about the fact that you thought it would be appropriate to leave the mic on and the video when we were having a hearing, whether it be a hearing before the ethics committee or whatever, HPC or anything. So you didn't think it was important enough to bring to the council, but you felt it was important enough to do it yourself for the ethics committee. Is that correct?
I didn't have a chance to speak to the council yet because the night that I chose to have the video and the audio still running, we hadn't finished any deliberations or made any findings of fact.
Okay, stop there. Have you brought it to the council since then? You think it's such a good idea? Did you discuss it with anyone at the city level?
Yeah, you're not a witness here.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, the purpose of the hearing is to
Yeah.
take evidence on which this
I
board
understand.
can make a decision.
And and I appreciate it. It's a level of transparency I'm happy to provide. The strange answer to your question, though, before we continue, Mr. Mallory, is I did. I told Dave Warren that that was what I intended and that that is what I wanted. And he is an assistant to the city manager, is he not?
I believe he was at the time. I don't know if he is now.
Oh, okay.
All right, now, a third question I had was, would an attendee of the meeting that came in while you were in executive session realize that it was your procedure to allow the video and audio to be running?
So in order to help answer this, again, I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this line of inquiry by Councilor Mallard
Yeah,
has got really nothing to do with the charge to this board from the city council.
right. I want to be helpful and transparent with you about it, but again, I don't think that this is the moment to have that conversation. It seems
Okay, that's fine.
tangential to the issue that we're dealing with.
That's fine. All right, now, I guess the other question which other people have asked is, where does the loss of freedom of speech come into play in this case? It doesn't, is what we're saying. Now, do you as a board think that every time I speak, whether it be in public, in private, or before the council, that I have to say, I'm saying this as a counselor or as a citizen? And, do I need to wear a shirt that says I'm speaking as a counselor? I mean, it's getting to the point that, and I don't really care one way or the other, but I think it's important to let the public know that when we're not sitting on the board, we're not sitting in a meeting, we're not generally speaking as counselors. If I'm going to speak as a counselor, I specifically say, we've had many counselors go in front of television and say, I'm not speaking as a counselor, or they usually say, I'm speaking as a counselor, and sometimes they don't say anything. I realize it's a difficult thing to determine, but I think it's important, and I think we need to do something. All right. I'm not speaking tonight as a counselor, period. I'm here as a citizen. Just because you call me in as a counselor, I'm still a citizen.
May I interrupt you there, Mr. Mallard, just for
Yeah.
clarity? That doesn't seem fitting. He is here to answer the council order as his actions as a city councilor and to represent himself in a public capacity only doesn't seem to meet the moment that we are currently trying to address. Not that you can't be one and then the other, but in this specific issue, we didn't ask for Wayne Mallard to come and make a personal statement. We asked for Councilor Mallard to
Well,
appear.
And the.
I would like clarification just on it as all.
The order from the city council.
Yeah.
Was for this board to determine whether Councilor Mallon, in his capacity as a city councilor, violated various provisions of the ethics ordinance.
Yeah.
However, I think it's a factual determination for the members of this board to make regarding whether or not the comments that are subject to the council order were made by Councilor Mallon in his capacity as a city councilor or as a private citizen, and or whether or not there should have been any disclaimer attached to it. So the issue of whether those statements were made in his official capacity or his private capacity is a factual determination that you as board members will have to make.
Okay. I guess going forward then, sir, instead of answering to a list of questions that you might have, I guess, is there a public statement that you wish to make?
The only public statement I wish to make is the fact that I was having a private conversation with someone. Not, I didn't realize the mics were on there. I thought it was the mic here. I don't know. And I didn't feel the necessity to say I'm speaking as a city councilor when I talk to him probably 3 or 4 times a week. And what I said, I don't take back. And I never have. I've always said, yeah, if that's what I said, that's what I said. But I didn't say it as a city councilor. I said it as a private individual to someone I talk with frequently. And a question came up, and maybe you can clarify it for me. You said that you follow Robert's rules. Procedural rules say the democratic rules of order. What's the difference?
The way I understand it from the city solicitor, Dave Sevchik, is that the Board of Ethics follows the democratic rules of order if there is any discrepancy or question. If the democratic rules of order, as it was, and this is almost verbatim as it was explained to me, if the democratic rules of order do not address it, then the next safety net, if you will, is Robert's Rules of Order. If for some strange reason an issue or a dilemma, a situation should arise that don't meet either of those, now this is the part that I'm guessing, Solicitor Sevchik had a third fallback, and I feel like it was just the main state law that we would fall back on if it needed to be applied. That is the only part of that conversation with Dave Sevchik that I am not 100% sure on, just that last part. The first 2 parts where this board would be operating under the democratic rules of order and then Robert's rules, I remember having with him at one point.
Well, the procedural rules statement for administrative provisions doesn't say anything about Robert's rules. It just says democratic rules of order or state law, city ordinances, or any rules adopted by the board. And the rule for having open mics and video during recess had not been adopted by the board at that time, had it?
We had spoken about it.
Again, regardless, the chair has the inherent authority.
Well, do the democratic rules state that? I mean, I'm asking a question. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
I don't know if they say that either.
But you didn't say they did. You referred to Robert's Rules of Order. That's why I was confused.
Well, what I'm referring to is the general authority of the chair to govern the conduct of the meeting.
And the general rules, Robert's rules are,
For example,
yes.
if someone at a meeting is making statements that are out of order, the chair doesn't need an ordinance, a rule, or a statute to say that. And
No, he doesn't, but we follow Robert's rules, which that is stated in. That's why I was asking, because I'm not familiar with the democratic rules, which I will become familiar with, because it doesn't list Robert's rules in the procedure.
Robert's rules is the basis for all, pretty much meetings. When you're looking at the democratic rule, that just enhances because of what we are doing. But also, I remember a few years ago when I first joined the board, the solicitor had said that we follow the Roberts rules, democratic, and then we fall back on state of Maine's, the state of Maine's ethics laws. So those are the three things that we do follow. But as it has been said, the chair does have discrepancy to make changes or to have something done. So it'd be the same way if the city chair of the council wanted to have somebody removed, the same process. They have the full right to be able to do that. If it's because they're running the meeting, they are in charge of the meeting. So they have that, I can say this and this, as long as it's not violating an ordinance, a law, or a provision, then he has that full right.
And for just a point of clarity, Mr. Mallard, it would be hard to remember off the top of my head which of the two. That would have been Norm Heitman, who was the former city solicitor before Josh Saucier
Right.
replaced him after he retired. When I started talking with the current city solicitor, Dave Sevchik, that was the change that I had been made aware of. And I don't know if that's.
It's not in the procedures for your committee,
All right.
unless they don't bother to update anything.
As much as we can, when we find situations that need to be updated. We have to remember that we updated our ethics rules this past year for the first time in decades? So we are still working on that.
So the rules I read don't say that. They say just the democratic rules, the state and city ordinances, and rules adopted by the board. And we don't know where we stand on that. Right?
I think we do. I just think we have a disagreement.
Well, you have a formal adoption of rules by the board?
No, what I'm suggesting is at least what I've heard from from Mr. Gould, which is that the chair runs the meeting. And as long as it's not in violation of those, the democratic rules and Robert's rules, that it's individual to the chair, sort of like as arbitrarily silly as it sounds, if I wanted us to stand at the dais now, I could call for a brief moment while we all go back there and turn the mics on. But with all due respect, Mr. Bro can't do that as a member of this board because he's not chairing the board. He's not in control of this meeting. That's not in our procedural rules either. But I think you understand I could do that if I wanted to get everybody up and set everybody back there, right?
Well, I don't know because I haven't read the democratic rules of order yet,
It's
which I will.
it's not on our procedural rules that I can change the seats, but as the person running this meeting, I can change the seats. And you understand that.
I would question, I think maybe you're overstepping your bounds, but that's fine. I won't say any more until I read the rules. It would be inappropriate to make a comment on something I haven't read,
Okay.
I believe. You have any questions for me?
I would like to bring up, address a comment that you made about how someone would know that the microphones and the video are on.
Correct.
I draw your attention to that screen right there, which was on during that meeting, and it was closed captioned, and it was broadcast on the meeting. When you see that, would you?
No, I don't look at the screen. I'm not watching the screen constantly.
In the meeting, that when you see comments coming up live, that would be.
If I'm not watching it, I can't see it, can I? And I wouldn't know.
You were right here in the meeting. You were.
None of us saw it. That's fine. I don't want to argue about it. Wait, no, it's over.
You asked a question.
And I'm giving you an answer. It's over. I didn't see it. And that's the answer.
It's fine.
And if you want me to lie and say I saw it, I'm not going to.
I don't want you to lie.
I've never lied to this group once.
Mhm.
You think I have? I'd be glad to see you try to prove it. And I've been more than agreeable with you. I've let you do whatever you wanted. And now I'm tired of it.
I understand. Are there any other questions for Mr. Mallon?
Go ahead.
When you talked about bringing it up to the city council, I had all the intentions of doing that myself, but with regard, because of the current ethics complaint that was being brought up, I felt that it was not appropriate for me to come to the meeting and talk about that, because it would make, it's just, I wanted to separate the two. After this is all over and done, I'll be more than happy to go right up there, and the city council over and do that. Now, my question is, as a elected official, and knowing that the mics were hot, do you think that the comments that you made, not only just because again, I'm not talking about the declaration of you being a city council member. Everybody in the city knows who you are. Would you still feel that the comments you made did not violate section 33-5-1 unbiased conduct?
Your question is very confusing.
Okay,
Say it again and be more specific. You're saying if I had made the comment that I was a city councilor and I was speaking as a city councilor?
whether or not you had made it or not, okay?
All
No,
right, so we're assuming then that I did not make it and I didn't say it.
okay, so
So was the comment appropriate?
was the comment appropriate? Would it have followed, would it have,
In a private conversation, as long as it's not being rude, I don't think there's anything that isn't appropriate.
but
It's an opinion.
as a citizen,
As a citizen, I had a right to say what I did.
watching the video,
I didn't watch the video.
I'm saying, I'm not talking about you. Saying as a citizen of Bangor, if they were watching the video and they saw that, or they read the article that BDN did, would they take that statement that you said and believe that that would be a violation of the unbiased conduct?
I don't see how, but if they don't understand the fact that I didn't state that I was speaking for the council.
Okay?
So what you're saying, what you're inferring is that anytime I'm walking the street and see someone and stop and talk with them, I should say, I can talk to you, but I'm not talking for the council, if we're talking about something that's going on in the city.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying at a city event, the statement that you had said, would it have violated, if it was anybody else, would it have violated the unbiased conduct in regards to section B, where themselves in a manner that does not discriminate unlawfully against any person because of race, color, sex, national origin, age, physical or mental disability, genetic information, gender identity, sexual orientation, social economic status, cultural group, and political status. That is what I see as the core question is, would somebody watching that video, knowing who you are, think that that would be?
The council's opinion?
No, would that be?
You're saying I lead the council, and when I speak for the council? I think that's a little stretching it a bit. I think I'm entitled to my own opinion. Right or wrong,
You are. But wait, the issue was it was live.
but the problem is that you're assuming that the public doesn't recognize the fact that we as elected officials have private lives. Is that what you're saying? I'm always a counselor no matter where I am? I tend to disagree with that.
Well, we're a private citizen. You have the right of the First Amendment. But my question mainly is, if somebody just watched that one little clip or read the article, would they make the assumption that you were being discriminatory against them, against that?
Well, if they did, they had the option to call me out on it and ask me. And I would have probably told them I did say it. There was nothing, I don't deny that I said it. But I think you're getting into an area that we don't want to get into right now.
That's one of the main issues that we're here to talk about. That's going to get clarification. If you thought that any ordinary citizen other that would just saw a clip of it would think that that would be discrimination. That was one of the issues on the ethics complaint that I wanted to address.
Well, I stand by what I said, and unfortunately, if that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel. But an ordinary citizen watching something that they didn't see the beginning or the end of, made a choice. I can't determine what he's going to say or what he's going to do or how he's going to think. And no matter what we say, everyone interprets things, you know, if you got 5 people sitting at the table or 6, and they hear one thing, they're all going to interpret it differently. And I have a right to my opinion,
Dude, I completely agree with that.
whether I represent the city or not, and I wasn't representing the city at the time. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Mr. Mallon?
I have a question, I guess.
Yes.
Pretty much everything, we have 4 questions basically before us. Pretty much everything has been about the third one. You know, the use of titles and disclaimers and all that stuff. But others, 2 of the other things we have to decide, as they're spelled out here, are, did your statements fail to meet the standard of being fair, impartial, and responsive, or fail to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence in the integrity of the city's government? And did the statements violate the requirement to treat all persons equitably and without unlawful discrimination? And you said you stand by your statement. Do you have like any response to?
My statement was made to a private citizen. It was not made to a member of the board, or it was not made in general public comment. So I don't think I have to justify what I said. I've admitted that I said it. I mean, I think you're asking for, well, I don't know what you're asking for, but I think you're out of line. So what you're basically saying is any statement made by an elected official that influences other people, whether it's right or wrong, is wrong.
No, I'm asking you if you have a response to these 2.
And what I said was, made the statement. I stand by making the statement. It was done as an individual. I don't know what you want me to say. What else can I say? I didn't say I didn't make it. I didn't say I made it as a member of the city council. So what would you like to have me say?
I don't know what you're saying.
Well, you must, because you keep asking the question. I mean, I can't do it any differently. I said I made the statement. I made it as a private citizen. Didn't make it as a member of any board. I was not sitting on any board at the time.
Mr. Mallon,
Yes.
If a reporter came upon you and your family at Hannaford, you guys were buying
I
bread.
can't hear you. What did you say? Your voice gets weaker as you.
Excuse me.
No, it's not a problem.
Thank you. If a reporter overheard you, they weren't there to cover you, but they just came upon you and your family at Hannaford, and you were buying bread or eggs or pretend anything. And you were speaking the way you were speaking in the council chambers, and that reporter cut a story about that. You're probably reasonably right to think that you were in your private capacity. I understand that. When you made the statements that you made and don't apologize for, you're saying that you were in that moment a private citizen, correct?
Yes.
You were here in council chambers, not as a private citizen, but you were brought here as a city councilor because of an issue that the city council had addressed this board to look at. So why would you think that you had the ability to just invisibly change the roles when you were only here in your capacity as a city councilor?
So what you're saying is, when I step into the building, I automatically, everything I said is referred to as being a city councillor?
That's not what I'm saying.
Yes, it is. It's exactly what you said. You said you come into the chamber.
Mr. Mello, I didn't say that at all. I asked you a question. When you were invited here to speak as Councillor Mallor addressing the council order.
Okay, stop
regarding
right
your
there.
behavior,
But I did not speak at that point in time about why I was asked to be here, did I?
Okay,
So it's irrelevant.
I understand that's what you feel, sir.
Well, of course.
Okay,
I mean, I wasn't standing before you saying anything, was I?
Okay.
I want to follow up. On our meeting packets and stuff, it does not say, going to what Shane's saying, it does not say Mr. Mallor or anything different. It says counselor.
Yeah, I understand.
So what I think he's getting at is that you're here as pulled in here because of a council order.
Yes, I understand that, but remember this, you weren't here. So therefore, I was not speaking to the group as a counselor. I was talking to someone as a private citizen. So what you're saying basically is, when I come through the door because I was invited, everything I said was being represented as a counselor, and I just tend to disagree.
Okay.
If you're not here in session, I'm not speaking as a counselor when you ask me to be here. If I'm talking to someone in the audience, I believe I still have a right to be a private citizen.
Yes, you do.
But you're inferring that by coming through the door, being asked to be here, I can only speak as a counselor.
I was just
I would
asking,
question
I
that.
was just asking if you saw there was a difference, sir, but no,
Can I
ma'am.
just
You
ask?
cannot,
No, I,
Public-
nothing about the hearing.
ma'am, but
Could you
public hearing
ask
is,
them to turn the air conditioner up a little bit so we're not freezing? I mean, it's freezing cold in here. I just returned from Washington where I attended a 13-hour meeting where they tried to freeze us out with the air conditioning.
no one's
Yeah.
trying to freeze you out,
Can you
ma'am.
please ask them if they will make it not so cold in here?
Sure.
Thank you.
I
And
think
that has nothing to do with your proceedings, it's just comfort
mostly
level.
correct. I understand. It's possible, thank you, Courtney, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, don't sweat us out.
Nothing, though, that we don't freeze, it's always freezing in this room.
We'll move on. One last chat with everybody on the board. Is there any other questions for Councilor Mallon? Okay. We are out of the public hearing portion and now in the board discussion part of the meeting. Is there, as you see fit in your capacity, is there any reason to not just proceed here? Is there?
No, I think there are. Council order asks the board to determine if there was a violation of section 33-1, 33-5.1, section 33-13.1, or generally any other provisions of the ethics code. And if you remember correctly, I think on prior occasions, council order has sort of had that catch-all.
Yeah.
And I think you declined to do anything other than address the specific
Right.
sections cited in the order.
Typically leaning more on the direct questions in the
Yes,
order than catch all of things.
right.
Do we still have discussion before we jump?
Yeah,
Any questions?
right now, I'm about to open the floor for all discussion with the board members.
Formally, what you ought to do is you ought to just declare the public hearing closed.
Right, thank you. As of right now, the public hearing is now closed. As we've moved on to the board discussion part of the agenda, floor is open for any and all discussion from board members regarding all that's before us. No need to be called on, just go right ahead.
On the run to the left. In the road.
Does it matter in helping you shape whatever findings of fact that we go one at a time, or is it better to? I feel like there was some ask of this last time because they were all somewhat regarding the same fact. The same situation. Does it matter if we
I don't
address them
think,
one
I
at a
don't think
time?
it matters.
So then. First up in our council order would be. Is there a violation of 33-1, the declaration of policy? Did Councilor Maller's statement and conduct, including advocating for the denial, excuse me, just suddenly became aware of how low I was talking. First up, the first part is what we are tasked to address is the violation of 33-1, declaration of policy. Did Councilor Maller's statements and conduct, including advocating for the denial of legally mandated educational services, fail to meet the standard of being fair, impartial, and responsive, or fail to maintain standard of conduct that inspires public confidence in the integrity of the city government? And I suppose we should just go one at a time through these if there's a discussion to be had before we move. Into the motions, right? That's amenable?
However you want
Is
to.
that amenable by the rest of the board? Are you
Discuss it.
I'm not even. We'll go the 4 questions that are posed to us. Take them one at a time, or just have an open discussion about them all. And then come to our motions regarding them after the fact. Do you have a preference?
I'm not sure if I necessarily have a preference, but I think that, I guess, as a sort of preamble, maybe, like what I want to say is, as I just said not long ago, all the focus has really been on 3, and whether or not, the disclaimer was used, or there was some, official, this is who I'm talking as, or whatever, and did that happen? And I don't think that is like remotely relevant to case I don't think it matters about making a disclaimer. And the reason that I want to say that, though, is that I think what's kind of happening in the discussion of other things is that there's this sort of implication. You have to be speaking as the city councilor for it to matter on these other 2. Like, unless it's determined that you're speaking as a city councilor, then you can't have violated these other ones, or these just become irrelevant. As long as I was talking as a, normal person and not a councilor,
right,
then these are irrelevant. And that's utterly out.
Well, section 33-13.1 explicitly acknowledges the First Amendment rights of councilors and other city officials to have their own opinion. And frankly, the government doesn't have the authority or the right to regulate thought or speech, so that even under the terms of 33-13.1, a counselor acting in their own private capacity has their right to whatever opinion they might have. And this board, of course, this board only can provide advisory opinion. but neither the board nor probably the city council would have any authority to regulate private thought or private speech. So I think what you're suggesting, which makes sense, is that the threshold question is whether or not Councilor Maller's statements were in a context, number one, whether or not he was acting in his either his capacity as city councilor, or if it would be ambiguous for a third party to understand the capacity that he was speaking in. Because the disclaimer requirements of 33-13.1 kick in when there's any potential for ambiguity regarding the role of the speaker. So I think that's a threshold issue that you have to address first.
So with that being said, can we kind of take this piecewise, starting with question 3, discussion on question 3, and then moving on to questions 1 and 2 after we've reached a determination on question 3? Is that okay with the board members? Sorry. Okay, yeah, no, no, it's totally fine. It's procedural. I'm just wondering if we should address question 3 from the council order before we discuss questions 1 or 2. Yeah.
Because determining whether or not we think that he was acting privately or under the municipality dictates the others.
Right, that's my interpretation. Correct.
I
Yep.
would agree with that.
Well, then let me ask about whether or not you're talking as a city councilor or as a regular person would not necessarily just be the circumstances of what you're saying, but could just be what you're saying. In other words, if you are, whatever the circumstances or who you're talking to or whatever it may be, if you're talking about how you're going to vote, would that not be as a city councilor?
It would be.
So you only can vote as a city councilor, right? Whatever the opinions behind the vote are. I mean, just as an example.
I would disagree with that because I can make, and anyone in this room can make that exact same statement. Quote, as far as I am concerned, they get nothing. Any one of us, whether we're on a city board or we're Joe citizens, we can make that statement. That is not unto itself, that does not meet the definition of advocating for.
I think the difference is
That's
that
not really my question.
yeah, I think the difference is what he's trying to say is that because he is a councilor on the city board and is going to, and is set to vote on said school budget, I think that's where the issue is that I think Mark is trying to bring up is that he's saying that, you know, he's not for that budget because of this. So he's speaking on his own personal belief of how he's going to vote as a city councilman.
I believe you had it right initially.
But I don't think the issue, when you're looking at 33-13, use of titles and making written or oral statements elected by appointee or appointed city officials may use their titles upon and only upon the following circumstances. Obviously, one is when so doing does not violate any other provision of the Code of Ethics or any provision, the Code of Ordinance, state law, or federal law. And then and when, you know, speech doesn't involve this situation at all. But when you look at C, it's when it's made clear and unambiguous that the official is speaking in their individual capacity and not on behalf of the entire city or a board, commission, or committee. I think the issue at hand is when you're looking at the other issues we're talking about, like violation 1, or fail to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence in the integrity of the city's government. So you see them, that provision, that C, directly ties into violation 1. Because he's speaking about an issue that the city council is going on. And then the statement said does it or does it not fail to inspire public confidence in the city, integrity of the city government. I think that's where the tie-in is that we need to focus on, because without that one, without 33-13.1 B and C, 2C, I think that's where that's the hinge point of all the other
Well,
issues we have at hand.
let's go down one more sentence. C, disclaimers are only required when there could be ambiguity regarding the capacity. We're forgetting the word only. During the break, while the meeting was at rest, nobody in this room or during a break in any other meeting is speaking in addressing a board or the public in their official capacity. I listened to that audio multiple times, trying to determine whether or not Mr. Millar, Councilor Millar, identified himself one way or the other, because that was part of what I was trying to do to make a determination. And I could not find one way or the other. He did not appear to identify himself one way or the other. So if he did not identify himself as a counselor, there's no cameras, there is no audio. How would we assume then that this is a counselor when he was not identified throughout the entire 26, 27 minutes when we were in the executive session?
Well, I hear that. I guess, and parsing the sentence is one way, but because he was invited here, not tonight, because he was invited to that meeting as Councilor Mallard to address the issue that the council order named him as I hear you, Stephen. I guess the pushback I have is the council order said Councilor Mallard. We asked him to give a voluntary statement as Councilor Mallard. He appeared before us not saying, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, I was there, I did this in his capacity as a counselor in reference to the situation that was named. Every single thing that points to what role, what ambiguity could be on your common citizen if we said he was invited as a counselor, he spoke as a counselor, he referenced actions as a counselor to respond to an order from the city council naming him as a city councilor. Do you think he was here as a private citizen? I don't think most people, unless they're looking for an argument, would say, well, maybe. Everything points to him being there that evening in his role as a city councilor. And it's named in such in the documents when we addressed him. And I think that's where people are forgetting. There's no disagreement that if you sign up for a position with if you were elected, as you pointed out, you're elected to this position. There's some disagreement among the Mallars who can have disagreements amongst themselves. In the past, they've said you're always a city councilor, and tonight we've heard that they're not always. And I understand, if I'm going to Jimmy's as a city councilor, am I there to cut a ribbon or am I there to get a bowl of ice cream? One is perhaps cut better with the ambiguity, but the very first line here in what you just claimed, disclaimers are only required when there could be ambiguity. So if you're invited here to speak on behalf of your official elected position, I don't think that's ambiguous. I think you're here as a city councilor. And I think it's pretty clear in the paperwork and in the addressing and in the testimony that one gives regarding that, but that's where I'm coming from.
In watching the break, that's where the problem concern or came up, correct? It was not.
This council order, yes,
Yes.
I would agree.
Mhm. And during that break, got the ethics committee isn't in session.
We're not in a recess.
We were not in recess, we were on executive
We
session.
were just in an executive session and we had not broken. I understand that there's a window there that possibly is, moving. In my mind, again, he was invited as and I'm not trying to beat the point. I'm just trying to reiterate the point. He was invited as a counselor to speak about his actions as a counselor, when as a counselor, he was alleged to have acted against a code of the ethics. He wasn't named as Wayne Mallor. He was here as Counselor Mallor. And when I came in, now, and this part you may not know because again, you were on Zoom. Like this part of that meeting, when I left to make sure we were all gonna be okay in the executive session, and then I came back in and told everyone.
Yes.
At some point in that meeting, I also told everyone, I don't want you to approach this table or leave that half of the room. I would like you to just please stay where you are and we'll be back as quick as possible. Counselor Mallor got up and others got up, and I learned later what they did was they went in to get their mail. And I didn't know there was mail back there. I don't know if you did. I didn't. What it looked to me when I first saw the meeting was that Counselor Mallor and his family didn't listen to the chair's discretion and say, please stay on that half of the room. They got up and they approached and started talking. Now later I learned from speaking with Dave Warren that the mailroom is back there and it's pretty customary to go back in it. He came, and when I watched it again, Stephen, I watched Counselor Mallor come out and it made more sense to me. But before I knew there was mail back there, it was pretty clear to me that he was not listening to the chair, not following instructions, not respecting this committee's parameters. Please stay where you are. It was not clear to me what he was doing. I had questions. That's ambiguity. I couldn't tell what was happening in his official capacity. I later learned more, but there is no ambiguity there when he's here representing X, Y, and Z to answer for A, B, and C, which all names him as Counselor Mallor. And that's a part of the meeting that I just realized because you were on Zoom, you may not have known. I came in and specifically told them, everybody stay put. Please don't move around. We'll be right back. So.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Did you see Councilor Millar go out through that door? Because I never saw anyone appear on camera.
Yeah, I did. When I watched the meeting back, there is, because again, the video was live, the mics were, on. You can see Counselor Mallor and you can briefly see his daughter. And if I vaguely remember, I think you can see the top of his wife's head. Sorry. But yeah, you can see them in that, you can see them milling about and moving around. When we came back in, there was a moment where other member of the galley was very adamant about interrupting the meeting to tell us new information that had happened. I didn't know what was happening. I felt my phone vibrating all the time while we were discussing everything together, but I didn't look at it. It didn't matter. We were in the meeting and I told him, you can't tell us anything. I've heard that he was just trying to sort of say, Counselor Mallor was all over the room. You said not to. Would a normal person who was here in a personal capacity, like get up and just go check out what's in the control room? No. City councilor would. They might go get their mail. That tells me he knows he wasn't here. Or maybe he might believe for 5 seconds I'm a regular person and for 35, well, I get my mail, I'm this. I get it. But I don't think there's a question here because a normal person in the galley wouldn't get up and go through that door to go see what was there. They wouldn't.
Because they would have,
It's none of their business, and they wouldn't even know if it was open, but a city councilor would. A city councilor would know they could. The city councilor in question decided to not listen to the chair when he asked them to stay put. This matter wouldn't have come up if he had listened to that request. That's the weird irony of all of this.
and
But he went through that door as a city councilor, make no bones about it.
during the times where he was on hot mic, he would be behind that though, would he not?
No, because he was approaching Dave, he was approaching, again, there's some argument about approaching this table, which is what I specifically said, but I'd love for someone to explain how you can approach the dais without coming in the direction of the table. It was clear what I meant. Dave Warren was over here, and when Councilor Mallor had gone in to get his mail, there were 2 times he went into that back room, and I believe, though I don't know for sure, it looks like in one of them, because the door is open, it looks like he's just throwing something away, like I did at the start of this meeting and will at the end with my cough wrappers. There's a garbage can right through that door, 7 feet in front, 8 feet in front, it's right there. But as he was coming back around where he's not supposed to be, unless he's a city councilor and feels he can be wherever he wants in this room, that he does the majority of his business. That conversation happened over there. That wasn't where that conversation happened, it was right there. At the dais where nobody should be unless they're doing something. Like, again, I'm trying to hammer it. but-
Watching it, I
Yeah.
was not seeing.
No, I know, and
I'm
that's why
hearing it.
yeah.
So I have, and knowing how the microphones are set up,
Right.
that I would make the ostensibly correct decision that, okay, he's behind
Right,
the table.
where the public is.
And he was, I did not see him.
No, that's okay.
It was in the corner, so it was.
Yeah. I mean, Dave Warren, usually when he's out here, they all run the meetings different. If Dave is here, he's usually in Councilor Falloon or Councilor Walker's chair, or sometimes he's over there. But that's where that conversation took place. And again, that's why I'm not trying to browbeat anybody with it or force an opinion. I'm just saying, no member of the public, when we're having a meeting or when we're just waiting for the meeting, they don't get up and they don't walk back there. Councilors do. And it's pretty clear to me he was here as a councilor. So.
And then another thing was that when you watch the video, that first mic was green.
And that's because that's where Dave was, you know, and I was communicating with Dave about things, so. But yeah, no, I understand now why you would think that is possible if that's the mic in question. That makes
Yes,
sense,
we've
but,
either got that or
yeah,
the
but it wasn't that
one
one,
above us.
yeah,
And there's like mics all over the place.
but it was back here behind the table.
Would a Joe citizen watching that meeting, would they know that?
No one.
Where anybody was positioned or where the microphone was from?
Are we
Because-
able to just pull up the video here and scrub to the part?
I don't know about that part. And of course, we all have phones and things. When I watched the video, I could tell where he was. You can see he's at the dais. And you can see he's having a conversation with, you can't tell that it's Mr. Warren, but because we were here in the room, we knew who was there and who was running
If you,
the operations for the city.
if you watch the video, you see him coming out of that door, you see him walking this way. So as long as you just follow him this way, you'll see exactly where he went.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity about who else might have been back there. It was Councilor.
Well, I will admit that I watched 2 or 3 minutes after we went into executive session.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the notes
The time.
and, yeah,
You just, like, looked at
and
all
so
of
I
it.
said,
Right.
okay. That's the important part to watch, or
Right, let's
we
get to that.
would have been directed to watch the entire thing.
Right.
So I skipped forward to like 2:16, I caught up with it a few moments,
I'll
30
take the blame
seconds.
for that. That's, if there's blame to be had, that's probably me not being clear with the timestamps of things. And
Well, I don't think that it's necessarily something.
if you watch 3 or 4 minutes of it
Blame
and
out,
it's
but-
dark and you're like, do I have to watch 17 minutes of this? Like, I probably, going forward, I'll be more clear about it.
That's the screenshot of it, and that's, will be Counselor Muller right there.
Can you just say what you're referring to?
It's the BDN article.
Oh, yeah.
It's got, they show it, they have a picture of it. Now, unless you didn't see him speak or didn't see him walk around, you would know that was him. But it's an issue of the screenshot doesn't do justice for what the actual video shows. But it does show him behind the dais.
Yeah.
I wish it would show the mic, but it's cut off right there.
It seems like there's some confusion about the video and we're able to see Counselor Millar. I wanted to ask again if we're able to put the video out just so we're all on the same page and skip to the timestamp listed in our agenda of 2:18:35 when he approaches the dais. Are we able to do that?
I don't know.
Is it a matter of any procedural thing that we can't? Because I think we can.
No, I mean, there's no procedural reason why you couldn't. It's just a matter of.
Let me double check with Courtney real quick and I'll meet the status. Thank you. Yeah.
May we, I guess, recess for a couple of minutes while you check with her?
You need a break or, we're not in a recess, but feel free to stand up and go do what you need and then come back when you're capable. And I'll do this
I'll be right back.
as I've done before. I'm gonna do it again. We're not in a recess, we're not in a break. The mics are live, the footage is still running, and this meeting is still happening in this moment. Yeah, I think she's trying to, she can hear me. Let me just see it. Courtney, I'm coming back there for a second. And I do. Give me a second, let me, don't, we must work too hard, let me find what they're gonna find is for you. Yeah, everybody should feel free to stretch their legs if that's what they want, or get a drink of water real quick. We're gonna, Cody, I think we can do what you're asking, Cody. And I don't think it's gonna be that hard as soon as I.
Give you the timestamps.
Yeah, right there. Oh.
Excuse me, ma'am. Back here.
Okay. Oh, okay, sorry, okay.
Been outside and try to get warm. Warmer outside, and then even it's cooling off nicely. You got people say.
Not about this. Talk about the Red Sox.
They suck. They're killing me.
It's so quiet. I was cold. It was like,
It is not warm in here, that's for sure.
And oddly enough, before she turned that up, it said it was set at 73.
I got
And it
75
found
now.
that at 76,
Air conditioner works way too well.
or the air dryer does.
I'd rather have
If
it.
we were in, if it was 73 degrees in February, we would not. We would all be happy.
I think we're still like the part where,
The train.
yeah, the training, yeah.
Ah,
What proof we're going?
okay.
It's always difficult with like 2-hour videos to get it precise.
That was a long meeting.
Yeah.
That feels like that loss. No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Should I? Oh, are they, no, wrong?
Just gotta share the screen.
Yeah, I got like control. Okay.
You forget there's a screen behind you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm probably a few seconds off. Been a while since I was a DJ. Please bear with me. This is a few seconds. There's a timestamp, 2:16. If I remember right, it's 2:30 or 2:40. Cody, because you asked for this, of course, and Stephen, you'll see. At the top right is where Mr. Warren is. And in a second, even though you're not gonna be able to hear it, there's a conversation there and it sounds like Mr. Warren is like, go back and get it. Meaning the mail or whatever is waiting for Mr. Mallor, for Councilor Mallor. Courtney, I don't have control anymore. Okay. That's what. tan jacket
Mhm.
is going back and it takes a bit. I'm gonna increase the speed just for speed's sake. It's not, I'm just gonna go 1.5 times for a moment. Mr. Mallor comes out with mail. Now,
Are we back in session?
We've always been.
yeah, we've always been in session. We never stopped. We just, everyone walked away for a moment.
We're in executive session right now.
Now, this was, a few seconds. I'm gonna go forward again because that's not the time that the issue for the council order is regarding either. There's a conversation and the mic is picking up parts of it.
Yes.
Councilor Mallor and Mr. Warren are just out. There he goes again. Back to the control room. And it was, he's gone so quick. That's why I think he just went to throw something away. At this point, he stops in clear view of the dais and he's talking to the city employee. And this is where what the paper is calling and what others have called the hot mic moment. This is just when Councilor Mallor is having a conversation about the budget. And my point beforehand was to simply say, that is clearly not where your average person goes. That's only where a council would feel comfortable going.
You're saying this to a person that sat in the dais in Augusta.
I am, right, yeah, I know. And, mostly just a visual description of what I was trying to describe to you verbally, but.
And to me, watching this on video, I have no idea who that person is.
Yeah.
And I could not be here for the meeting, but what I am seeing right now,
yeah.
I see a tan jacket. I see nothing identified.
Sorry, we go back to when Councilor Mallor made his statements at that meeting.
I think it's about to come up, actually. I think it's coming forward at the timestamp. It's right, it's 2:20. What you'll see, boy, that was a good pause, right? That's Councilor Mallor's face. And also when he's speaking in the podium, he's wearing the exact same jacket. I mean, it's not like the room was full of people that dressed like Slim Shady. It was him. And as I was at that meeting, not that you don't have to take me for it, but that was him. Look, there's no more public comment.
I'm just saying it should be everybody's individual interpretation.
There's no more public comment.
You're
There's no more.
Stephen, to a certain
There's no more.
scenario.
Thank you. There's no more public comment.
We're partial. Very partial.
Hillary? I feel like I've been very patient with you over the last few meetings. I'm not going to continue to do this. The public comment is over. I need you to be quiet in the galley or you're going to be asked to leave. Is there any more of this? I mean, we don't.
I'm content with what we've seen.
Stephen, do you want to? I mean, we could fast forward to where you see what he's wearing when he's speaking to the board, but that was him. Yeah, I'm good. Is that good? Yeah, Stephen, you're okay?
I'm fine.
Everyone else is. I guess we're still on some level discussing if we think that Councilor Mallor was here as a private citizen or was here as a counselor, or I admit trying to just trying to navigate all that. I might have lost the thread. If I did, feel free to catch me up.
I think I still need an answer to my question that I asked
Sorry.
before, I guess, which is I think the first two that we're supposed to look at that say, you know, did the statements, including advocating for the denial of, you know, blah, blah, they fail to meet the standard of being fair and impartial and blah, blah. Both of these seem to me to kind of imply that you don't have to first determine who he's acting as, because there would be cases where the thing that you say would determine it itself. And like I said before, if you say, I'm going to vote this way and this is why, I mean, you don't have to then separately determine whether or not you're in your role as city councilor, because it's just inherent in saying that. Is that not right? Or
Like an officer saying, I'm going to arrest them. Like your average person wouldn't have that, so they couldn't say that.
I mean, I guess, but it just seems like it's built into these questions that we're supposed to decide that it's a possible thing.
Is that the wording of the council order, or is that just?
Well, I'm looking at the words of the ordinance. And, I mean, obviously, it's within all of your discretion. Book number one, find facts, and number two, to interpret the ordinance. So I'm gonna give you my reading, which you're free to accept or reject. Okay?
Yeah.
As I read it, and it goes back to one of the questions you initially had, of whether or not you need to take the context into account, or are the statements in and of themselves potentially actionable? And in my opinion, I think you do have to take context into account because, for example, if a counselor is having a telephone conversation from his or her family room with their cousin in New Hampshire, saying there's a vote coming up on Monday and I'm gonna vote no. And then, you know, providing whatever reason, because of that context being private and not expected to be subject to general knowledge, then the context of that statement doesn't put it in the position of being something that could, let me look at the language of 33.1. That councilors and city appointees maintain a standard of conduct that will inspire public confidence in the integrity of the city's government. You know, I mean, if the statement is made entirely behind closed doors with no expectation that it's going to be made public, it's hard for me to see how it can run afoul of that.
So in this case, it's a open meeting. Cameras and mics are on. That changes the context.
Well, that's the context. And then you have to decide as a board the factual situation of whether or not taking everything into account, whether or not that is at a minimum, an ambiguous situation that would require, number one, require a disclaimer, and number two, could potentially run afoul of 33-1 because the statement could be seen to not inspire public confidence in the integrity of the government.
And I suppose both questions one and particularly question one, inspires public confidence in the integrity of the city's government. It would depend on the individual public member. It might reinforce their opinion and reinforce confidence. It could go either way.
Yep. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, not really, especially with the way these things are like, I mean, we've had so many examples like thrown out so far tonight, but I mean, it's like, if somebody is a city councilor and, is at Hannaford and there's a reporter who was not there or, whatever, but happens to overhear you say, just as an example, and not because I'm trying to say that anything that this is what was said, but overheard you say, I'm gonna vote this way on this because I'm racist. And then a reporter said, I'm gonna write a story about this and all this stuff. Is the idea supposed to be that it is possible for that statement to be looked at in this way where it's, along the lines of these things that we're apparently supposed to decide, that just the fact that he said the thing, we don't have to decide if he was saying that as a city councilor,
Well,
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Here's the problem that I have with that, is that if you're just looking at the statement, then what you're doing is you're regulating speech, which you can't do under the First Amendment.
I think the big difference, what you're saying is, if he's at Hannaford's shopping, he's a private citizen. But when he's here in response to a council order as a councilman, that changes the, I would say,
Context,
the context of it, so that yes, he still has his First Amendment rights, but he is here as a councilman. I think that's the general idea of what I think Shane is going for.
I'm gonna navigate it with you guys too, to make it make sense, not. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that necessarily, makes sense, because if we decide that he was acting as a city councilor, then we can regulate his speech because
it's his official position.
okay, but we can't decide that there are certain things that you would say that really the saying of them dictates that you were saying them as a city councilor. Like, this is how I'm gonna vote on something, and this is why. That you can't do, because it seems like that would dictate that you are saying it as a city councilor. Because you can only do that when you're a city council.
The example that you're using is a little more complicated. Because if a counselor says, I'm going to vote in a certain way at the council meeting on Monday, expressing the intention of how they're gonna act in future. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is, if a counselor says, I'm gonna vote in a certain way, and this is why. you know, that's their opinion that they have the right to have. And all they're doing is expressing how they are going to cast their individual vote. So that's different from saying, this is the position of the city of Bangor. I mean, a counselor could say, I'm gonna vote against this particular ordinance, and every other counselor is gonna vote for it. And all they're doing is expressing their individual opinion on that particular council vote. And by saying, I'm gonna do this, you know, by virtue of that statement, by virtue, it's an individual position as opposed to the position of the city.
Because it's a matter of governance.
Right.
A person can say, I don't think there should be any money in the school board for people who don't speak English. You come to this country, you learn the language. That's one thing. But when someone, in referring to the upcoming school budget, says, I'm not going to do it because of this belief, you're now concerning the matter of governance versus a matter of personal opinion.
Right.
People have personal opinions everywhere. I encountered 5 of them at the intersection when I was coming here. But none of them hold the keys to the city budget, or one part of that. And for me, that's how I'm looking at this when he was here. The Code of Ethics says it clearly. It says that you are the Councilor Maller. It says Bangor public officials, but let's substitute. Let's play Mad Libs for a second. Councilor Maller retains their full constitutionally guaranteed First Amendment rights as a private individual. Code of Ethics respects and protects these rights. One of the responsibilities of elected or appointed individuals is to separate protected personal discourse from matters of governance. Councilor Maller was speaking about matters of governance here when he said they're not going to get his vote because they're illegals. I'm paraphrasing to someone. No one's, especially the Code of Ethics that we're leaning on, doesn't say he can't have that opinion. It's just saying he can't have that opinion when he's in a position of governance. And when he was here speaking about a budget that the average person on the street can't vote on, he was representing a matter of governance. He has said tonight that he doesn't see it that way, but that's what we're being asked to look at. If I'd caught him saying that at the Little Wayne concert tonight, or at Hannaford or Jimmy's, or anywhere except City Hall when he was being called before the body to answer to actions as a city councilor, maybe I would find the ambiguity there, but he wasn't. He was here responding to councilor activities, speaking about a budget that he's part of, in control of. That's a matter of governance. I think the context for that is just that. But I'm convincible if people see it otherwise. And I don't know that your answer is still got.
I mean,
Is there another way to ask it?
I guess I'm not sure. I'm not. I feel like you were saying more or less the same thing I was saying, except you said governance, and then you didn't have a problem with it anymore. As long as I said governance.
I don't know if I said it better or worse, or if it was just different. It's just looking at the way that this is laid out. It just says you have the First Amendment right as an elected official always, but you have to be separate when you are dealing with matters of governance, because maybe you do feel a certain way personally. But when you're acting in governance, you can't have that bias, or you should check it, or you should do something other than what seems to have been done. Excuse me.
I mean,
Excuse me. If you want to talk, you can, but you can't do it in this room anymore. I keep hearing whispers and conversations again. And please, if you're going to have a conversation, you can do it outside or you can do it in the hall, but you cannot do it in this room. It's distracting. Thank you. Sorry.
So just to try and be like super specific and pick a super specific thing where, you know, it. The code of ethics says you can't act in a biased way or whatever, right? You know, so if you said, that if you're a city councilor and you said, I'm going to vote this way because I'm biased and I'm going to vote in a biased way, that wouldn't count either. Would that somehow avoid violating?
If your bias is
The
open,
bias
if your bias is wide open, like if you came in, or that we're really reaching for examples, but if you came in wearing like
The
a
Klan.
Klan hood, and you're just like, that's it, that's how I'm voting, like, because you're clear about it, I still think
I
it's a
think
matter
you're
of
reading too
governance.
much into
Right,
it.
it doesn't, it's just your personal opinion and it doesn't count as violating the code of ethics.
Well, I think you've already figured out that it's all gray. There aren't a lot of bright lines.
Yeah.
That if a counselor, I think, makes a public statement that, he's gonna act in a certain way that is clearly contrary to established law, I think that's actionable. Does that help?
It depends on what you mean by actionable.
Well,
I mean, I can vote in a certain way.
I think that what he's trying to say is because the statement that he had made and the way he was going to vote on the budget would have correlated to violating a certain federal education, state education law requiring the city to have ELA. So I think that's where he was going with it.
I'll maybe this is a little, you're right. I mean, I think what might be a little bit clearer is if somebody was gonna say, I'm gonna vote against the school board budget because there are funds in there to provide educational services to disabled children. And I don't believe that's right, so I'm gonna vote against it. That's clearly illegal, that the city's obligated to provide those services, the city's obligated to fund that. I think that can be subject to discipline.
Okay. So I mean, that's basically the question. Does what he said, you know, reach that level,
And that's where the gray comes in.
but then there is still this question of, was he saying it as a city councilor or was he not saying it as a city councilor? And
And I
my
think,
question
yeah.
is, do you actually have to determine that or?
well, like I said, I mean, if it's in the context of a clearly private conversation, I think you have to take that into account. Because somebody could hold the opinion, I don't think it's right that we pay for those services, and they're entitled to that opinion, even though the law says otherwise.
Right, and now we're just like going back and forth about the same thing over and over, but a person could hold that view.
Right.
And any city councilor could hold that view, that that's not how it should be. But once you say, and that's why I'm gonna vote against the school budget, then that is something different than just any regular person having an opinion,
Well, okay, so,
isn't it?
I think the difference
I think
is
it is.
that he's a councilman.
yeah,
That's the difference, because when he states that, that in itself is him saying, as a councilman, I, you know, quote unquote, just, you know, referencing that he doesn't believe that they should be getting funding. Right there is where the big difference is because he's a councilman talking about a vote that is upcoming and the reasons why he's not voting for him.
So let me muddy it up even more. Okay? So same factual situation. The counselor says, I'm gonna vote against this as a matter of principle because I don't think we should be paying for it. I realize that federal law requires us to provide these services, but I am writing to every single member of our congressional delegation, and I'm urging them to take steps in Congress to repeal that provision of federal law. I think that's protected. Now,
The saying it or the doing it?
either.
Because he's making an assertive effort to change.
Right, now, if it's in the context of, if it's in the context of, they say something like, because these people don't deserve our support because they're less than human or something like that, you know, where's the line? The line's not clear.
Well, I think if you did it and didn't just say you were going to do it in the future or something.
It just did it and didn't tell anybody why.
Let's say you did it
Okay.
and then you say why you did it or whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, then that, as you said before, would be to have done something that's actionable, right? Whether or not you're writing to your congressman or whatever you're doing, that you're still voting in a way that is against the law and declaring that you did so, right?
I think
So-
if you voted,
So that wouldn't be gray. Right? The doing of it is.
It's an action, right?
You have broken the law,
well, if he hadn't said anything at all,
theoretically.
well, if I voted for something like that, I said, I didn't say anything at all about why I did it. I didn't break the law because I didn't verbally or announce the reason why I did it. You know, I could have voted no for it because of another provision in the budget that I didn't think, like a new freaking goalpost at the football field, you know? But I think the difference is that when you say it's something that violates laws, I think that's where the difference is the verbal saying, hey, I'm going to be voting against this because of blah, blah, blah. Now it takes you into another threshold that now you're gonna fight that why you're doing it so it doesn't look so bad. I think it's a big differences. That makes sense. Somewhat jumbled.
Well, I mean, there are other Frank, go ahead.
Sorry. Counselor, just out of respect, but again, we're past the point of public comment.
I know, I just wanted to say something that may help you make a decision.
Before you do, he can't.
Right, I mean.
I'm sorry.
All right, it's not about this, it's about in general. School budget can't be deducted, you can't specify where you make the cut.
Well, we're just, no, I understand.
But it
We're
seems
just
to be,
talking about
we're
hypotheticals.
hung up on that.
I understand. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
We're just wading through the hypotheticals.
No, that's fine. I'm sorry, I realize I'm not giving you a lot of guidance here and I'm sorry. And like I said, I think because there is so much gray and, there's a long history in this country of civil disobedience. So that even when the line gets crossed and somebody has done something that doesn't comply with the law, you know, does that then run afoul of, you know, ethical provisions in an ordinance? You know, if is a counselor gonna go and stage a sit-in at Bangor High School because they object to a federally funded program and they don't think tax dollars should be going to support it? And they're doing it because they're on the city council and they know they have a microphone.
You still have the question.
I know I didn't answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, I basically, ultimately, I think I need to know if 1 and 2 here are just moot questions because it can't really be something that we can decide
Well,
in one way, right? Because if we have to know if he was acting as a counselor in saying these things, and there's basically there's no version of just the fact that you say something, no matter what it is, counts as speaking as a counselor. I mean, then I think these just don't even make any sense as questions.
I don't think they do.
I think one's a little easier because one says regarding the maintenance of public confidence in impartial conduct, so that if the statement is not made in public, then it doesn't run afoul of 33(1) because there's no issue of the maintenance of public confidence because it's said privately. So first question, I think, is a little easier, at least that distinction there. Whereas the next one is different. Because if a counselor were to make a statement, even in private, okay, that somehow gets overheard, the Hannaford comment that says, I hate, you know, pick a protected group, that, okay, I hate them, okay? I think that it certainly could run afoul of the wording of the statute, I mean, of the ordinance. But, you know, I mean, then the question is, what do you do about the individual's First Amendment right to have that odious opinion?
Well, I mean, you're allowed to have the opinion, but saying that you're going to do something because of that opinion is different than just having the opinion. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that the main issue in regard to 1 and 2 should not be dependent on whether or not we agree or disagree on 3. Because they're separate codes of ethics. And they deal with separate issues that, in my opinion, don't have any dependency on if we vote for 3 or not. Because of the separate ordinances. One is working with public confidence and integrity, and the other one is with unlawful discrimination. So I don't think we can depend on 3 to decide 1 and 2. I think we can decide 1 and 2 separately, individually, for the character that's in the order and as well as the code of ethics.
And if this makes your deliberations easier, I think that not only are you required under the ordinance to make the factual findings that are gonna support your decision. You're also the board that's been entrusted by the city council to interpret these ordinances too. So if that's your interpretation, I mean, as long as it's not clearly contrary to the language of the ordinance, which none of what you've discussed tonight is, that's part of your jurisdiction to interpret the ordinance itself.
Cody, you got anything?
No, I think I'm comfortable where I'm at right now and the discussions that we've had so far. Yeah, frankly, I'm all set to go.
Well, I've got a couple of things, scribbles.
Yeah.
A lot of scribbles. We were speaking earlier about whether or not, there's a law violation. A law is passed. Well, governments do that all the time. That does not automatically mean it's an ethical violation. Hawaii had a law that said you could not have a handgun in public. The United States Supreme Court just struck that law down. Does that mean that the Hawaiian lawmakers committed an ethical violation by passing that law? No. We have other examples here in state where that has happened. Those were not considered ethical violations simply because it was later found to run afoul of the law. We're not here to judge whether or not Mr. Millar, Councilor Millar, should have said it. Was it a smart thing? And with all due respect, Councilor, was it even an intelligent thing to say? Knowing that mics were on. Or we're not here to base judgment on whether or not we agree with the actual statement. We cannot let that be clouded. I don't particularly agree with it, but I am looking at it as we all are, or all are supposed to be, as whether or not this was an ethical violation. And question 1 and question 2 have the word advocating for. I did not hear him advocate for anything. He did not attempt to influence anybody else's opinion. He was not speaking to anyone other than stating his opinion. And I'm willing to listen to others, but I am basically ready to vote on this.
I think what you had last said is, yeah, he was speaking to Mr. Warren.
Mhm.
He was here as a councilman. But then he, as said before, he doubled down and he's admitted to it, that on record, on the interview, yes, that's what I said and I believe it. Does that confirm his way of he's gonna vote? It's but the issue is that he had said it behind the dais during a city meeting requested by city council. As a city councilman invited here, as Shane had said, there's a lot of gray area, but the fact of what we're answering for is there is in section 1, including advocating for the denial of illegally mandated education has failed to meet the standard of fair, impartial, and responsiveness, or fail to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence. I think when you look at this, like that, you can take out, like you said, advocating. He may not have advocated, But did he fail to meet the standard of being fair, impartial, and responsive? Or fail to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence in the integrity of the city council? So we're looking at this, we're not looking at just one thing. There's 3 topics in that one, request. So you can take out that advocating for the denial of legal mandated educational services if you don't feel he advocated. But do you feel that he failed to meet the standard of being fair and impartial? Yes, no. And responsive, or failed to maintain standard of conduct? Yes or no? If you feel he violated any one of these 3, then he violated that code of ethics. Because those are the 3 items that were presented to us from the city council to respond. You can vote no on 2 of them, but if you vote one on one of them, if one of them you agree with, then then you are agreeing that he violated that violation. Because that is part of the violation at hand. Does that make sense?
Yes, although, as I pointed out earlier, which part of the public?
It doesn't matter.
No, if it, rather than fail to inspire confidence, if it reinforces, then there is no ethical violation, correct?
Can't make that determination.
We're not that, exactly, that's not our job.
No.
You're trying to say that if there's a certain part of the public that heard the statement and let's say it's a racist statement and they're racist, so then it inspires confidence in them, then it somehow doesn't violate the
What
ethical
the
standard
statement
here?
is irrelevant. Does it inspire or fail to inspire?
It doesn't matter, because you're gonna have, no matter what you say, you're gonna have a group of people that are going to agree with you. You have a group of people you're not gonna agree with you. The issue is, did it cause a public confidence in the integrity of the city's government when a city councilman says something that disparages people who don't speak English or immigrants and stuff like that? You have this group of people, you're actually showing that he doesn't have the confidence of the people who are advocating, hey, we need these things that's required by law, to maybe the few or equal amount who say, yeah, go for it. It's either, there's not a real way to do this, but I think the issue is when you call out actual people and things, you're targeting that group of people, and you're not inspiring the confidence that you have their backing for their children to be able to learn English. And then too much time with the homeless and the illegals, it's just, you have to look at the statement itself to decide, are you targeting somebody or are you not targeting somebody? And I think that's the issue with the ethics complaint originally is, the school, the children, the people who were needing these fundings in the school thought that this was very unethical. And the people who did the ethics complaint felt that way. They can't be the only ones. So I think when you're looking at that, you have to look at, you can't go off and say, one thing, and just because you inspire that group of people, you just ignore the other, and vice versa.
Well, that's kind of
It's catch-22.
and it's kind of a slippery slope to go down. Because I want you to take on question one, I want you to take out Councilor Millar. I want you to put in the city council in general. Did city council statements and conducts, including for denial or fail to meet the standard of being fair, impartial, and responsive, or fail to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence in the integrity of the city government. Now, we have recently had numerous meetings with city council where the public at large has come in and been furious about the city council's lack of response to the needle littering epidemic. We'll use that term. Would that mean that because they weren't being fair, impartial, responsive, or failed to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence in the integrity of the city government, would that also automatically mean that we have that there would be an ethics complaint or a finding of guilt against the council at large because the public they're not being responsive to the overwhelming needs of the citizens that have been here testifying to their government? I realize that's kind of a jumbled way of saying that.
No.
If they're failing to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence?
No, because that's not what that means. That's not what's happening in your example.
I think the big issue is that in the ordinance, city councilors and city appointees maintain a standard of conduct that will inspire confidence in the integrity of city's government. Yes, he's a councilman. Okay, but people look at that as when the way it was worded, when it was said, they look at it as him saying, this is why we're not doing this. And that's the issue at hand. It's not whether or not you inspire confidence in 70% of the, or don't inspire confidence in 70% of the group. It's not a majority rule when it comes to inspiring confidence. I think the issue, I think what I'm looking at is inspire confidence and integrity of the city government. It's a standard of conduct. I think that is the issue there, is that it was a targeted statement. Thus, the standard of conduct was violated. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think it would have been different if we had said it differently. But that's the standard of conduct is there's a real, I think is a real thing that hits me on that one. His standard of conduct would have not have inspired confidence in those groups that he clearly stated and clearly had a bias to.
Like if you work for or you represent the municipality, you're obligated to try to uphold the public confidence at every opportunity. And when you don't, whether you're a city councilor or a police officer or you're a public works officer, like you, in taking that job, that role, or that appointment, you're obligated to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence. And people are people, they're gonna mess up. It doesn't mean X is an absolutely horrid person. It just means, in this instance, they did not continue to inspire the public confidence in their actions. And, I'm not trying to corral anything. It's just and I probably started it by making one weird example at Hannaford and on and on, but in regards to what you were commenting on, Stephen, my feeling about that is if you work for the municipality or you're elected, you're trying to maintain that standard of conduct. You know, you have a personal private life, you know, no one's gonna be bugging your living room. But if you're at a ribbon cutting, or if you're in City Hall and you're there on your duty, you should inspire public confidence to the best of your ability. Unless you don't believe in that, in which case now we've circled back to a conversation that Mark and Ed were having, which is Councillor Mallor has said he feels this way. He hasn't changed his mind. He'd say it again. So to me, that reasonably means whether he was speaking as a public individual or he was a city councilor, he feels that way and he's going to stand on it. So if he was at a city council meeting and someone asked him, he's already said he's going to stand on that. He does not feel any different. That doesn't inspire the public confidence in that regard, maybe in other regards. And not to blow smoke up anyone's back or waste time, I watched Councillor Mallor take to task the Bangor Water District for 15 minutes once in a workshop meeting. And I agreed with every single thing he said. I was cheering him on. It was awesome because he was saying everything in my head. In this specific instance, Councillor Mallor didn't say anything that was in my head and didn't inspire the public confidence.
Say like an example of a police officer is known to be very biased against African Americans. That confidence the city has in that officer, you're not going to see any African Americans going up to that officer asking for help because they know his history. And you know, it's one time, it still hits you. So inspiring confidence is, you know, doing the right thing. And the standard of conduct was just not there.
I'm not gonna corral or hurt anything. I'm just gonna remind myself that I'm supposed to run a good meeting. The conversation is great. I just don't want you guys to feel like you have to keep having it if you know how you feel. Because sometimes getting into a discussion is just for the discussion's sake. I'm happy to keep the floor open and continue if there were other things to bring up. And Stephen, if you had others, and Mark, if you had others.
I have one more question.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to refocus.
I just want to try to absolutely.
I'm not trying to step on anybody's things. I'm just trying to refocus it. So
draw a circle
And me too.
to certain things. But so on point 3 about the disclaimers and all that. So what I want to try and figure out in my own mind, I guess, is could you vote no on that theoretically, that he did not violate anything of that, and still vote yes on other things, right? Because he said things as a city councilor, theoretically, right? But this whole disclaiming thing is not relevant really to that. Does that actually make sense? Because it seems like it makes sense.
Well, it does, and we've now come full circle to where we started. And so, I mean, I told you the way I read the ordinance, that I think you do need to look at the context, but I think that you can interpret it differently. You don't have to accept what I'm saying. And that is not an unreasonable way to look at these ordinances under this factual situation.
Okay. And I believe, because could you find that he was speaking as city councilor, whatever, whether you're looking at context or you're not looking at context or whatever, but also think that whatever he was doing did not necessarily need him to say a disclaimer of how he was speaking.
Yeah, I mean, what if this conversation took place in a private office and off a mic? Do you need a disclaimer there? I don't think so. But it's the same statements.
Right.
So it keeps coming back to that circumstance, which is Hannaford or council chambers. you know,
And if I'm not mistaken, it may have been the last time we were debating Councilor Millar, or it may have been Councilor Leonard. I do believe we had a split vote on some of those
Yeah.
issues.
Just because you vote no on one doesn't negate the other two.
right, you know, this is how a person would see this.
I would like to make a motion to start the vote. I'd like to make a motion regarding each question.
I just want to say before we vote, and that'll be off, but I just want to say that in both the first and the second one, what we're talking about as the things that are stated here is the denial of legally mandated services and the unlawful withholding of legally mandated educational services. And on the third point, I'm just not convinced that even if you show up somewhere and it's like, I am showing up here as a counselor, ribbon cutting, that absolutely everything you say afterwards falls afoul of this disclaimer thing. But as I said, I think that you could vote no on 3, and I think you could still vote either way.
To your point, I think that if you show up to an event as a councilman, from the start of the time of that event to the end of the time of that event, it is inherent that you are here as a councilman. Unless you make a statement saying, "But nothing else from here is being councilman, I'm a private citizen, leave me alone." I think that's the difference. Like kind of like clocking on, clocking off. I mean, if you're here for one event,
I
you
would
start.
disagree. No, that's all. I don't think that just because you show up to the ribbon cutting or whatever, that and you are doing something as a counselor, that necessarily everything you say is as a counselor, you have to.
Because you'll step away and you might talk with your neighbor and you're talking about something else, or you step away and you're talking to a constituent and you're actually talking about something else privately.
Right, and I think in this case, it doesn't matter anyway, because I think that what questions 1 and 2 are, either are inherently you're acting as a city councilor or they're not, I guess.
I do want to mention, he's officially acting as a councilman from the start of the meeting. I would say until he finishes he had not spoken to the board yet, so he's still acting as a councilman. So I think that aspect of it, he was invited here to be here as a councilman. He fulfilled his duty as a councilman when he finished his statement and answering any questions.
I guess the last thing I'll say about the third part, because literally the verbiage is, in this instance, because it regards Councilor Mallard, she's just in the entryway. Yeah, she's dead. I know, I saw you looking, and I meant to.
She's trying to say.
I meant to ask, well, I keep turning this up, Counselor, and
No, I'm sure you do. They've had issues.
no, I know, and I actually, when I saw her shiver just before she left, I was going to ask, even though it would probably not come across the way I mean it to, but are you guys under a vent? Like, would it help if you moved? Like, maybe the reason she's,
Oh, here.
okay, I understand. Yeah, but I see her, she's right there, but you know, she's fine.
Yeah.
And the last thing I guess I'll say about the third part, which is, the verb that I see here, and I understand what the counselor was saying. But if I address this by speaking about official business, the school budget, to a staff member inside the municipal building without a clear disclaimer, did Councilor Mallard fail in his duty to remove ambiguity regarding how he was communicating? I understand in his head, he might have and might not have thought that he was just talking. The circumstances put the onus of this on him. And the circumstances are overwhelming that he was in council chambers as a city councilor, requested to be as a councilor, addressing a council order regarding a councilor's behavior, not a public citizen, but a councilor. So the onus of this, the verb is on him. Did he fail in his duty to remove ambiguity? That's a hard word, fail, you know, the connotation there is he failed at something that maybe he didn't realize was a hoop he had to jump through in that moment. But it is ambiguous based on the circumstances of where he was. Did he fail? The way that this question is asking it, it almost means, I don't know if that's the right way to have worded this. And because it's worded in such a way, maybe the right answer is, no, he didn't fail in that. But the circumstances, if that word is different, did he inspire public confidence by his ambiguity, et cetera? Like, I just think parsing the sentence for the verbiage of predicates and nouns and whatnot is one thing, but the context is city council chambers. He was here to do council business. He was here as a like that all just reinforces for me what's there, but I understand that you could have an answer to one question differently than the others. I get it. So.
Yeah.
There was a motion to, I'm gonna amend it a bit, and we're not proceeding unless it's seconded, but there was a motion to end the board discussion and move to making motions regarding these questions. And that's still on the table. Do we still have discussion to make, or is there a second for that? I mean, second. Motion made by John and seconded by Mark. We now move to the last part of this unfinished business, which are the motions regarding each question referred to the board in the council order. Best again to go one by one around and take a vote. Some of these are worded strangely, so if you want to make sure I'm asking it in the right way, I'll try to make it so that they're all. Last time we did this, it was somewhere in the affirmative, somewhere in the negative, but they affirmed the negative. Just trying to get them all so that it makes sense in one direction. So in regards to whether or not Councillor Maller and the board's councillor is right. The first one, it's violation of section 33(1), the declaration of policy. Did Councillor Maller's statements and conduct, including advocating for the denial of legally mandated educational services, fail to meet the standard of being fair, impartial, and responsive, or fail to maintain a standard of conduct that inspires public confidence in the integrity of the city's government? So if you say yes, you are saying Councillor Maller failed to meet the public confidence. If you say no, you're saying the opposite. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
John?
Hang on. Somebody's gonna make a motion which needs to be seconded, and then the vote.
That can't be me. I'm just reading. I beg your pardon. Thank you. Does anybody catch that?
No.
What's the motion?
We have to move to vote on this.
Yeah.
Well, somebody has to make a
Right.
motion either that Councillor Maller
Oh, yeah, okay.
violated
Right.
section 33-1
No.
by failing, or did not violate section 33-1.
I should.
And then that motion needs to be seconded.
I have a motion that Councilor Mallard did violate section 33-1 of the Board of Ethics, or the Code of Ethics.
Motion made by John. Is there a second that he did? Second. Now we can vote. Thank you, Ed. I apologize.
That's okay. That's
The
why
motion is- the motion-
I read Robert's rule.
No, that's it, definitely, and I need to vote. Motion has been made that Councilor Miller did violate the Code of Ethics regarding violation of 33-1. Mark?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Cody?
Yes.
The chair says yes. Is there a motion to be made for the next, please?
Okay, I'll,
Like in school where you, the next kid to read, oh no.
That Councilor Millar violated section 33 5.1 on unbiased conduct and, I don't know, do I need something else? Violation of
Code of ethics, no, that's it.
Second.
Seconded by Cody after motion by Mark. This is to say that Councilor Millar did violate the code of ethics. Mark?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Stephen?
No.
Cody?
Yes.
Yes. Same request for motion and praising, and then a second, please.
I motion to find that Councilor Millar violated section 33-13.1, the use of titles and disclaimers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Cody and seconded by Mark Beecher. That Councilor Millar is in violation of 33-13.1.1. No one says dot. Oh God, 33-13.1. Mark?
No.
John?
No.
Stephen?
No.
Cody?
Yes.
Yes.
So let me just make sure I've got this right. The motion fails because there are only 2 affirmative votes and
That's
3
right.
negative. Okay,
That's right. If anybody had, no, excuse me. A motion for the 4th?
Which we never even discussed.
so what,
Right, yeah, no, actually,
And
geez, Stephen, right, of course. So, okay, so I guess as the chair, we can pause things here, right? That's, if we
Well,
all, if
what
we
I-
all agree.
what I would recommend that you do, which is, I think what we did in the past, excuse me, what you did in the past,
Yeah.
is that you decline to, or somebody make a
Right.
motion to decline to make a finding on that.
I'll make that motion to decline findings on that.
Is there a second? Okay, motion made by John and seconded by Stephen. So now we vote on whether or not the declination of that motion
Right.
is accepted. Mark?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Stephen?
yes,
Cody?
Yes.
I vote yes. Good catch, Stephen, like I.
Well,
we were
I-
nitpicking, I didn't.
we were so hung up on
Yeah,
1,
no.
2, and 3
Right.
that 4 just never
I think
came
we
up.
mentioned it like in the beginning, but then we got like, down a rabbit hole.
That concludes the unfinished business. Is there any other business before the board tonight?
I have a question. So there are, things that I'm not sure how they happen. And I just wanna, I don't know if I'm able to talk about it or find
Yeah.
out or whatever, but you're supposed to do things like put forward suggestions to change the code of ethics.
Yep.
Potentially like change our procedural rules and things like that, like.
Yep.
Like how did that happen? How do those things actually?
If I'm right, it is. It could have been on a meeting like this. It could have actually just been one of the parts of our agenda. If I'm correct in this, it is that when I get in touch with the city solicitor's office to schedule and making the agenda with them for that meeting, I just have to tell them that's one of the things that if we all agree, I can't just tell them, I can't say, this is what I want, the board has to agree. If we all agree that that should be on the next meeting, then that would do it. Is that right?
Yep.
I would say we do the video and microphone be on the next agenda.
Do we have the authority to change that, or does that have to come from council?
Well, the ordinance has to come from the council, but you can make recommendations to the council on
Which-
amendments.
Okay, and those are as non-binding actually as tonight's
Yes,
meeting.
this, yeah.
Well, for changes to the code of ethics, right, but like our own.
Your procedural rules,
We have-
yes,
we have the
you have
ability.
the authority to change
And
that.
so like, but so like what happens? Like, does somebody have a suggestion of changing something and then they tell you and then you try to get it on the agenda? And I mean,
Yeah, in our meeting, so hypothetically, if we, and we probably won't go over because it's been a late meeting.
Yeah.
If we knew when our next meeting was going to be, and we'd ask, and I'll ask the board right now too, because we're still in other business, if it's all right on our behalf, I'll bring that up as the agenda item for the next meeting, one of the things that we take care of.
Or one of the things you could even do is like the city council is you could
make them,
you could schedule a
Right.
workshop
we can do the
and
next
not,
one,
and
but we can
you don't
literally
vote on
do it
anything, but
next.
just say, have a discussion.
In that meeting, what we would do is come in, or we would just workshop it, no pun intended, we would come in with preconceived stuff we wanna talk to each other about, like, did you like the public speaking? Do you want to do this? Should we abandon that? Should we include more of this? And we can discuss it, and as long as the board not unanimously, as long as the majority of the board thinks that that's a fine idea, then we put it to the solicitor's office. Now, there's an argument that, for example, public comment should or should not be part of the board's activity when they're doing council orders. I'm not gonna say it, I'm gonna say it in a way that I have a vague memory that the solicitor's office's opinion was that because of the public meeting laws, there has to be a public comment in that meeting, in that public meeting. So if we have a referral of council order, I don't think we can skip having like a public comment part because it's in the state law. Something like that would prohibit us from changing our own procedures, but only something like that. If we really wanted to do something and it wasn't against an existing ordinance or a law, we just have to agree, or we have to vote and get it passed, so.
Well, you
Is
actually,
that close?
well,
I
fairly
feel like
recently,
pretty close.
I mean, these are reasonably new,
These are brand new.
procedural.
Yeah, we did
Orders.
these procedural orders last fall before we began
Right.
any of the recent council.
That's
orders,
right.
Because there were no existing.
No, there
procedural
were, but they
rules
were
that
outdated, yeah.
Um,
And Mark, I would say shoot me an email, tell me what you're thinking about, but we can't do that, can we?
No.
Even
Well,
between two.
two people can,
Yeah.
but once somebody
Okay,
else gets
yeah.
on that email,
Yes, I'm not
I did
gonna-
actually clarify that just because of things that happened during this
Right,
meeting as
earlier.
well, since we're here and we can talk about things, but.
Sure.
Cause I remember I was on the school board and I was under the impression that city council just had something about telephone calls.
Yep.
There's only two people talking at any given time and
Mhm.
yada yada, and it's all the same rule. Like actually, two of us could talk about stuff.
that is not prohibited by
Right.
the
Rules of
freedom of access.
Right,
law.
because we don't meet, the only time it is when you have a.
It's
quorum.
more than two, well, it's more than two.
Right, 3 is our, well, depending on how many.
Really, I'll just say,
Yeah.
to throw it out, but, I mean,
There would be
But-
nothing
but-
illegal about two of you having a
Right.
conversation.
Right.
Although that was subject of one of our meetings within the last year
What?
about a
Yeah.
chain of counselors
Text
discussing
messages.
things.
Yeah.
right, right.
That's a road I frankly, considering the job title that we hold, that's a road I'm not willing to go down. Don't, Mark. Best of respect,
Don't email.
don't call me.
Yes. Right.
Hmm.
And
And I do have, are we done with that?
are we, do we have to?
Make it.
Make it a
No,
motion
do we have to
to
make, what's that?
make a motion to adjourn.
Wait, do I have the permission of the board do we have to actually have a vote? Like, can I try to get that on the agenda for the next meeting? Everyone's good with that?
Sure.
Procedural
Second-
rules,
seconded.
procedural rules review, yeah,
Yes.
okay,
I mean,
All set.
I like the workshop idea.
yeah,
We just had a workshop.
sure. Yeah, we can do
It
that.
still falls under FOIA, but.
Yep,
No problem
it'll be
doing it.
recorded and everything's normal.
If
If there is nothing else.
just
there is.
one
Go ahead,
question,
yeah, go ahead.
do we have anything else potentially coming up for this committee? I have been wanting to discuss things with council members that are irrelevant to here or tonight, but other issues within City Hall, and I've kind of put them on the back burner, considering that
Right.
we may have that same person being discussed here within a few weeks. I have not heard one way or another.
I am not aware, strangely, I'm not, I mean, I guess I'm the only one here that can officially answer. I would defer to the counselors. I'm not aware of any additional upcoming council orders for review from the Board of Ethics. I thought the last one was it, and then it just happened to be, we had this by proxy, just because it happened during that meeting. I'm not aware of anything.
Yeah.
Next meeting that we have should just be regular
Okay,
meetings.
where it's been 10 days or so since the last fireworks here in Chambers, the fact that
Yeah.
neither of you have heard anything, or Mark, or
No.
John, about
No.
anything. All right.
Oh.
Yep.
And
Very good.
I would officially just encourage you, you do what you want, of course. But I would officially encourage you, if you want to talk to the city councilors as a body or individually, because you have something that isn't board related, if you have something about something in the city or something that's bugging you with your property or anything like that, you don't have to be, as far as I know, you don't have to be clear from us to do that.
No, and if you thought that, if you had a conversation and then later some issue came before the board that you felt might have some overlap with your discussion, you could always recuse yourself.
It's more the appearance
Right.
of that. If I have a meeting or a conversation with one or perhaps two counselors, and somebody sees us together the next day, oh, Counselor X is being referred to the ethics committee, that now puts me in a rather uncomfortably looking situation.
Understood, and I can tell you that the conflict of interest standard in the ordinances is a lot looser than I view a conflict of interest, because I'm the chair of the appeals board. And there have been instances where, for example, there's been a witness who's been a client. And, I've flagged that as a potential conflict, and I've been told, oh, that's not a conflict under the ordinance. But I mean, it made me uncomfortable, probably less so in my position as a board member and more so in my position as an attorney. And I said, I'm not gonna go
You
there.
merely recused.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. On to your
Yeah.
motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.